I'm calling the meeting, as chair of the Parks and Culture Committee, I'm calling the last meeting of our session into order. Today's March 3rd is 9 o'clock has arrived, and we have a big agenda today. I do want to just say, first of all, Supervisor Jack Eckblack will be excused for the remainder of the day, so he will be unable to attend. This is also the last meeting of the Parks Committee for this session, for the two-year session. It also completes my 10th year on the county board, 6 years as Parks Chair. I think the only people that have, actually Supervisor Taylor is at 10 years too, Supervisor Deanna Alexander is at 12, and Willie Johnson is at 24, 26. So Marcelia Nicholson and I are tied at 10 years each. So I'm looking forward to my next 2 years. Since I'm not running against anybody, I can say I do have next 2 years coming. And hopefully I'll complete it safely and healthy. But with that, I also want to say that keeping the tradition alive of bringing in products, I did bring in Breadsmith products for the committee members and for staff. We have banana bread, there's pumpkin bread, and there's a cinnamon buttery roll from Breadsmith, from the original Breadsmith company that was built on Downer Avenue over 30 years ago. It became a big franchise. It was in my district, and they started there. And when it started on the east side, everybody on the east side commented because it's created these huge smells of bread that were drifting all over the east side. So it became really a landmark, and I was not surprised with their huge spread. So, yes, Supervisor Martin.
I just wanted to share a funny in regards to that cinnamon bread. It's also known as the morning sin bread in my household.
Good. And if staff and anybody else would like to have a piece, we're not going to just eat in front of you. If you do want to get something, you can. We have more than enough for other people too. So I just want you to know that. So if you want to grab something when you're speaking, you can. With that in mind, we're going to be taking up a number of items. The one item that is going to be taken off the agenda today is item number 6. I'd like to have a motion for layover to the call of chair.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Supervisor Merton.
Mr. Chairman?
Candy is chair.
Mr. Chairman, we have gavelled in the meeting, so we will need to read the item into the record, and then we can take any motion that you want.
All right.
Before you did that, you got to take it off.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Taylor, for pointing that out to me. All right, so I've gavelled in the meeting, and could we take it off right now, or do we have to wait till the item number 6 comes up at this point?
Till we get to that item, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so my intention is item number 6 will be laid over to the call of the chair. So with that in mind, we'll start with item number 1. Can we have the illustrious Ms. Evans please call that item?
Mr. Chairman, could I take the roll to establish a quorum?
Absolutely. Jumping ahead of myself.
Supervisor Taylor, District 17.
Here.
Martin,
Present.
Cogs Jones,
Here.
Martinez,
Present.
Ekblad,
Excuse.
O'Connor.
Here.
Mr. Chairman,
Here.
there are 6 members present, 2 appearing virtually. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 1.
Item 1, from the Executive Director of Parks requesting approval of an agreement with the Friends of Veterans Park for their formation and the scope of a design competition to improve Veterans Park.
Welcome, and if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. Jim Tarantino, Deputy Director for Milwaukee County Parks.
My name is Graham Anderson, the founder of Friends of Veterans Park.
So what is before you today is an agreement that would create a new Friends Group, our 67th Friends Group for Veterans Park. And I'm going to describe it a little bit, but I would walk through. I first met Graham about 2 years ago at a lakefront stakeholder convening session that the Greater Milwaukee Committee pulled together of the 80-plus interested stakeholders that operate on the lakefront or in the area around the museums. And Graham brought to those stakeholder meetings a real, true visible care and passion for the future of the lakefront and for Milwaukee. And it was apparent, and so we've been working with him to set the foundation of a new Friends Group to be a vehicle to make improvements for the lakefront. We know that Veterans Park and the lakefront is incredibly important to Milwaukee, So one of the unique aspects of this arrangement is a focus on a international design competition, which would be like a planning effort to produce new ideas, solicit new ideas for the improvement of the lakefront. Now, what is actually in front of you for a vote today is the agreement that Chapter 13 requires for Milwaukee County departments to enter into with friends groups. The agreement itself is standard, very similar to all the other friends group agreements that have been brought before you, with that one unique aspect of including a description of the design competition. So I thought it would probably be helpful if we described, or let Graham describe what his vision is for that project here today.
Absolutely. I think the goal of the design competition is to work both throughout the community to make sure that all community voices are heard, right, and are able to be part of that revisioning of what Veterans Park could be, what that means to amplify it, what it means to integrate it into the current plans or developing plans from other stakeholders on the lakefront, but truly what it means to reimagine Veterans Park for a next generation of Milwaukeeans and make sure that we're providing access, activation, accessibility, both for those on the lakefront, but then those throughout the city as a whole. So that really is the goal of the design competition, is to bring in both international, but then also pair with local experts, people that know Milwaukee, live in Milwaukee, and can bring a version of this vision forward.
Any further?
Nope. I can talk for hours, but happy to take any questions too.
All right. Questions from committee members? Supervisor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not a question, but a motion for recommendation for approval.
There's been a motion made for approval of this agenda item. Further questions from committee members? Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, and I love the enthusiasm. And has that RFP been released yet, or what's the time parameter? Thank you.
No, the project has not kicked off. We're looking for the approval of the Friends Group agreement before we begin that process, but maybe Graham can share some of his expectations on the timeline.
The goal would be that we'd have an RFP out before the end of the year. So I think once pending approval of this, that we start pulling together both the experts and stakeholders and to start getting that design process.
Other questions from committee members? Seeing none, Ms. Evans, would you like to call for the vote?
On the motion by Supervisor Martin that item number 1 be recommended for adoption, Supervisor Taylor, District 17.
Aye.
Martin. Aye. Cogs Jones. Supervisor.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 noes. The motion prevails.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing the work.
Is there an opportunity for some input from the War Memorial Center before we move on to the next item, please?
Since you're a critical stakeholder in here, let's definitely, you can make a comment.
Thank you so much. Major General Brian Winsky. I'm recently installed here at the War Memorial as the new president and CEO, and I just wanted to remind everybody that the War Memorial is our biggest equity in all of this. It's the centerpiece of the southern portion of Veterans Park. It's been there since the early 90s. We're responsible for maintaining it. We're on the cusp of doing a significant renovation that won't alter the appearance or the footprint of it, but will involve taking up all the pavers, redoing the foundation, et cetera, et cetera. We do hope that this will remain an icon of Veterans Park well into the future, and then the parameters for the RFP include inclusion of the Vietnam Memorial as it is now as part of this broader overall design, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I do want to comment to you that in my meeting with Mr. Tarantino and Mr. Anderson, I did state that you are the War Memorial is a critical stakeholder, that all communication has to include you in as one of the critical stakeholders, and nothing will move forward without your input and your involvement.
Excellent, sir. Thanks for your leadership.
Absolutely. Thank you. Item number 2.
Item 2 from the President and Chief Executive Officer, Milwaukee Public Museum, providing an informational report regarding financial statements. This reference file is also referred to the Committee on Finance and is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Welcome. Milwaukee Museum's always welcome here. And if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Sure. Good morning, Chairman Wasserman and committee members. I am Ellen Sensky, President of the Milwaukee Public Museum, and with me I have Tom Eckler, who is our CFO. So as part of our presentation, we'll do an update on what's going on in the current museum and its finances, and then we'll do an update on the new museum. So we just completed our second quarter of our fiscal year, and attendance is tracking ahead of what we had projected, with January attendance exceeding our goal by almost 9,000 people, and February exceeding by a few thousand, even though one of those Saturdays, we were closed because of food and froth. So we had more than 31,000 visitors who made MPM part of their winter break, which was between December 20th and January 4th, and that included the January 1st was the Kohl's Thank You Thursday, and we had a record-setting 7,658 people on that day. That was the highest Kohl's Thank You Thursday attendance that we have had thus far. MPM shared with the public that we will be open through the rest of this year, marking our final year in the current building before we move over to the Nature and Culture Museum of Wisconsin. And the last day of operation we announced would be January 3rd of 2027. With that, in January, we kicked off a year-long celebration called Greatest Hits that commemorates MPM's iconic exhibits with exciting theme days, after-hour socials, guest lectures, activities for young kids. We even have some official merchandise on this, and much, much more. So MPM's Greatest Hits features a lineup of 5-month-long celebrations of special events and programs, highlighting MPM's popular and impactful exhibits. We started out with Ancient Civilizations. That was from mid-January to mid-February. We are getting ready to kick off Diorama Rama. And then we moved to Rainforest and Butterflies, then Dino Days of Summer, and finally we end the year with a celebration of the streets of Old Milwaukee and the European Village. We also hosted Construction Milwaukee in January and February. This annual canned food exhibit theme this year was Can't Forget the Magic, with MPM's iconic exhibits serving as the inspiration for those designs. Each sculpture was made of at least 1,000 canned and non-perishable food items, and after deconstruction of it, we donated nearly 40,000 items to the Jewish community pantry.
Wonderful.
MPM has always been committed to engaging visitors in our science, and one of the ways that we are doing this right now is that our paleontologists are including museum visitors in their research on ancient shells. These are shells from Florida that are 1 to 2 million years old. Visitors are trained to sort through the specimens and then provide initial curation by separating well-preserved shells from scraps and grouping those shells together into those that look alike. The tiny shells that visitors found are then studied by our postdoc, Nate Wright, and he is determining how those shells developed, and then how that actually relates to their survival. I've always given an update on what's going on in terms of with the building. And I don't have good news for you. We continue to have problems with the elevators. The most recent occurred on Martin Luther King Day. Both of the elevators were shut down at 3 p.m., which was a busy holiday for us. That's because the elevator motor generator failed. This motor is obsolete, and it needed to be rewound and rebuilt. That elevator is still out. So we are now at 6 weeks without one of our 2 passenger elevators, and it's been concerning to me because we have had high attendance, and I'm worried about that second elevator. And the other concerning thing was when that motor burned out, it actually triggered an evacuation of the building. And we had to evacuate not only visitors, but also our staff. And it was a 3 degrees outside. So it is very disconcerting when this happens. So, we are getting ready for our next Coles Thank You Thursday on this Thursday. And, we have families with strollers that line up and may spend 20 to 30 minutes in line waiting to get up to the floors. So it is critical that we move to a new museum, just because it's unfortunate. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom to talk about our finances, and then I'll give an update on the new museum.
All right. The following fiscal summary covers the consolidated financial statements of MPM, including the MPM endowment for the period ended December 31st, 2025. The 4-month period ended December. For the 4-month period, MPM's consolidated financial statements reported an operating surplus of $1,273,000 compared to a little over $1 million in income from the same period as the previous year. Consolidated operating revenue decreased to $5.8 million compared to about $6 million in the previous year. Consolidated operating expenditures decreased to $4.5 million compared to $4.9 million in the previous year. In other non-operating activity, MPM and the endowment unrestricted investments reported an investment gain of about $595,000. Restricted net assets decreased $587,000. After taking into account all financial unrestricted and restricted activity, the consolidated net assets of MPM increased by approximately $646,000 during the 4-month period ended December.
All right, so new museum progress. Exhibit fabrication continues. This includes building scenic elements such as the rock walls, the grasses, the trees, the buildings, and the diorama backdrop paintings. We've also begun to remove some of the objects from the museum that will go on exhibit in the new museum. We've contracted with Research Casting International, which is the premier large specimen mount maker, to provide assistance in moving many of our large specimens and objects. The first one that was removed by them was our pterosaur, which is our only dinosaur specimen. They disarticulated, this was just the 2 weeks ago, they disarticulated this and moved it to their shop where they will do cleaning and then repositioning of it for display in the new museum. Another one of the large objects that was removed was our Haida boat. It's a fishing boat, huge. This was created and will be moved to the new museum prior to the final windows going in, because it is the only object in the museum that is actually too large to fit into the freight elevator of the new museum. So that will be craned in before we seal up that building, the windows. Labels and graphics are in their final review before production, and we've begun to develop the media elements for the new museum. This includes soundscapes, videos, and interactive elements. Prototyping of those interactives has been taking place. We've tested 10 different prototypes of interactives with our visitors to learn what they like, what we could change, what are they learning from this, and this will help us to inform and refine those interactives. In terms of construction, we continue to move along at pace. Since last December, the 5-story banks of windows that are above the 3 entrances into the museum have been mostly installed. In addition, the framework for the vivarium, which is up on the top of the museum, the framework's been installed, and they've now started to install the windows. The roof of that has now, those windows have been installed. Work on the inside continues with mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. There's also studs for walls and drywall that's going up. The rails for those collection storage units have been placed and put in the floors in floors 3, 3.5, and 4.5. And the framework for the 5-story monumental staircase has been installed, and it's a really cool hanging staircase, so it actually takes up less space than if you did a staircase that was built from the bottom up. So that just allows for more exhibits. And we are very pleased to say we've had a goal of having our workforce on site that reside in Milwaukee County. Our goal has been having at least 50%, and we are at 57%. The collection staff continues to make progress, inventorying, barcoding, and packing the collections. And with the off-site storage facility upgraded and some storage equipment already installed, some of those collections that will be permanently housed out there have been taken out. And they're being unpacked, and we will continue that process. Last September, the county's DAS and the museum co-presented on an overview of the disposition plan for MPM's surplus property. As MPM works towards vacating the building, we still have a lot of planning to do, but we can provide a little more clarity to this process and when it will commence. So if you recall, we said that we would allow county departments to come in first to determine if there are things that they want, and then we would open it up to museums and then nonprofits, and then we would do a final public auction. So we will, on the first and third Tuesday of every month, we will be first inviting from August to December county departments to come and walk through. Then in the museums will be invited from October to December, and then nonprofits from museums from October to December, and then nonprofits would be invited for November and December. What we're saying is surplus property and fixtures will not be taken at this time because we will still be open, but the interest will be noted and priority will follow according to that tiered system. During these tours, the county may consider requests for fixtures because if you remember, those things that are built in are owned by the county. Other things are personal property of the museum. So after the museum closes to the public, we'll contact those who are interested and set up a time for them to come and remove those objects or those things. All costs with that removal will be borne by the people who will be taking it, so the responsibility of the respective entity. And we have not determined what that schedule is just yet as we still continue to work through this, and we've also not determined how and when the public auction will take place. So this is a work in progress, and we will provide updates as they become available. And in terms of, I know you've all been waiting to understand where we are with fundraising. So with fundraising, I'm pleased to share that we have raised more than $212 million thus far. That includes 47 gifts of $1 million or more, which is pretty phenomenal. So we have seen strong support from major donors and public partners, and the momentum continues to build. As we expand outreach to the broader public and community donors, we expect the momentum to build even further. With the construction progressing steadily, the visible progress reinforces donor confidence and keeps the campaign moving forward. So I would say we have a lot to celebrate here. So that concludes my report.
Congratulations, $212 million. And your total, you're shooting for is 240? Or,
That's right.
so,
I will say that, that 240 number has been out there since 2018, and we all know what's been happening since 2018. We went through COVID, then we went through all the escalation and inflation with COVID, and we have been working hard to keep that number now. And now with the inflation and tariffs, we've kind of run out of runway as we are now in the building process. So we have value engineered the heck out of this building, and we're at the end of this runway. So we've planned for about a 6% increase in that final goal. However, I will say, based on our contract with you, we will not come back to the county for that increase. So,
Correct answer.
yes.
First of all, congratulations. That's just a spectacular number. There were quite a few doubters out there. I'm sure there are doubters watching this right now, and who I just think it's wonderful. Members of the committee, questions? Supervisor Taylor.
So can you go over quickly the process again for the items that we're going to dispose of? Just exactly like the step-by-step, who's going to be offered in what order? And is this going to be something that, it's very public, right, very transparent? Is there going to be like a website where people can go in advance? Can you just explain that? Because that's one of the things that's always hanging out there. I just think it's important every time we get you in front of us that we can lay it out, just because there is interest in that.
Right. So we still are, that plan is a work in process. So the idea is that the county gets first access to come through and determine if there are things, and this is not just stuff that is on the public floors, also there's furniture, et cetera, that may be of value to other departments. I'm not very much, since we've been cobbling together. I mean, I know we have our boardroom chairs they all have different heights, and you choose your chair based on its height, you don't change the chairs. So anyway, so the county gets first dibs. Then we wanted to keep especially things that are on props that might be of use to other museums, to keep them in that public realm. So then the museums get second, then nonprofits get third. And we're thinking things like theaters and even high school theaters where things may be of value. And then finally, we'll do a public auction, and we've not yet determined exactly how that will be run. That's something we still have yet to determine.
So when you're saying the county, museums, and nonprofits, are these things that we're just giving away? Or are things that are like loaned?
No, they would be given away.
Given away.
Yeah. Now, for the county-owned stuff, that is up to the county. So for the things, remember, anything built into the building is county-owned. The things that are not built in, so the fruit, the baskets that are not collection items, those kinds of things are museum-owned, and those will determine whether it has a value or not, or whether we would want money for it. Likely, it's probably of value for us just to get rid of it and not have to pay for something.
Regarding collection items, though?
Collections are all going to the new museum. They will go into the new storage in both the new museum and offsite storage. None of the collections are going anywhere. They're going to the new museum, but they're not being given away. The collections have been accessioned, and so they are part of the county's property, and we will not be disposing of them.
I was telling Ellen, last week, Thursday, the South Suburban Chamber of Commerce had their annual awards dinner at the museum, and the previous 2 years that I attended, it was at the Bucyrus Club, and there was like 140 people roughly. On Thursday, there was 215 people, showing the interest of wanting to see maybe the streets of Milwaukee, because it was right there. We went up a floor to eat and everything, but like the cocktails and the desserts afterwards was all on that level where people are walking around the streets. And so clearly there's this, desire, the memory, all the emotional feelings of going. And that's been the issue on, social media and some of the outreach from us. So who owns the actual streets, the buildings themselves? Who actually owns that? The decision is made by who on what to be done with them after the building is empty?
So the built-in are owned by the county.
The county. So, I think it's up to us at some point to determine what we want to do with it. If there is a nonprofit, because you said nonprofits, there are nonprofits out there. There's a nonprofit that has the resources and the manpower to deconstruct and house them somewhere. That's something I think we should probably look at doing. It's no different than.
It's fine. It's Supervisor Logston. She's outside.
Yeah. It would, just like with the county stadium, when someone took off the Milwaukee County Stadium sign before it was torn down, I think it went to Indiana or Ohio for a long time, and then now it's made its way back to Wisconsin. So like, there could be at some point, maybe they don't have a place to put it, but if someone wants to take it from us, I don't think we would maybe care, or at least the board, I wouldn't, so I think that's something we'll have to look at some point.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Other members of the, yes, Supervisor Martinez.
Thank you very much. So the domes falls under number 3, Director Sinsky?
No, the domes is number 1.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So Supervisor Steve Taylor already kind of asked the question that I was asking about, like who gets the first crack at all this stuff. I can't wait for that auction because I plan on definitely bidding on some of the stuff that would be left over. But the deconstructing of that. I mean, you told us before, right? I mean, it's built into the building. I mean, it can't be like taken out, right? I mean, am I correct on that?
So it is built in, and it would be very expensive to deconstruct it. I do not know. There are parts of the museum that have asbestos, so that also has to be taken into consideration. The building was built at a time when asbestos was one of the primary products of construction. So, but that would be the county's. The county has the. It's the county's decision on those.
So when would the process start of us, the county, the domes being able to go in there and say, or start, I guess, shopping or looking around for what we can transport over to the dome?
So we will put out the call for, and we'll have the Tuesdays, the first and third Tuesday of the month, starting in August. And that will be just to do walkthroughs to identify if there are things that might be wanted. And we'll make note of those. And then we will then we'll take down who it is and what's wanted, and we'll connect after we've closed. So we don't know exactly the schedule for actual removal would be.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just please keep me updated, and I will reach out to Krista so we can keep her updated as well. So I'd like to go with Krista. I think the both of us will go together and just see what the idea is. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate this discussion because I think we've all heard from a lot of constituents who are really concerned about the deconstruction of items and whether or not things are considered county property or museum property. And there's even been some suggestions that things in the museum that were formerly considered county property and just part of the exhibit has elevated itself to a possible role of an item, so there's still some debate around that, I know, in the general public. But my question pertains to specifically in the process, is that something that the museum itself will be facilitating, or do you have sort of like auctioneers or professionals coming in? Thank you.
So for these first 3 rounds, it will be museum that will tour. For a public auction, likely we will have an auctioneer because we don't have the capacity to do something at that level.
Other questions from committee members? Non-committee members, Supervisor O'Connor, sorry for cutting you off. I didn't.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Chair. So as a follow-up to Supervisor Martinez's questions about which entities fall into which categories, I guess I would want to ask similarly for some of our other county assets that are also in the process of becoming independent, such as Villa Terrace and Charles Alice and Trimborn Farm. So where do they fall in the order, potentially?
I would consider anybody affiliated with the county as part of the county. So they would be in that first round.
Thank you.
Other members? Let's talk fundraising a little bit. You had $212 million, and I'm sure you're still going for the big gifts, but where do you start going for the smaller gifts? I mean, we'd spoken earlier. When is the big campaign for the smaller gifts going to start?
That will start probably in the fall of this year, when we really do the big effort to bring in everybody into this campaign.
Yeah, and that's going to be the issue with like the plaques, the bricks or whatever, just have the people, name recognition. A lot of people, this is a big selling point for individuals. They want to have their name somewhere associated with the building, and they want to pay at certain levels to get on that building. Do you have a whole campaign devised for that?
So there will be a signage as you enter the building, that will have everybody who has donated, no matter what size, to the new museum. So that's where our naming opportunities start at 100,000 and go up. Anybody below that and those people who give that will all be on this one sign. So everybody who gives the campaign will be on the signage, permanent signage.
Right. But, so even if people give like $100 or $200?
We have a child who gave us $5 out of his allowance because he said he didn't need it because he wanted it to go to the new museum, down to the $5 and $1 mark, so, on the signage.
Who is this child? How old?
I'm not going to divulge that. Under 10.
He's under 10 years old, and he gave $5 of his, and he's going to have his name on the signage?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a wonderful human interest story in this. At some point, we'd love to hear who this little boy is, or this little girl.
Okay.
Right. Other members? Thank you very much for your report. Once again, congratulations on this major achievement, and I would hope the critics who said that you and the museum could not raise money are now silent in their complaints and their concerns are over with, and once again, congratulations. Next item, Ms. Evans.
Item 3, from the Executive Zoo Director requesting authorization to execute a professional services agreement with Traditions LLC for the installation of event decor for the zoo's Wild Lights event. This item has been referred to this committee for informational purposes only and is also referred to the Committee on Finance.
Welcome, and if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
And with me is Emily Salentine. She is the Director of Marketing and Communications for the zoo, and she will be presenting this item.
Good morning, supervisors.
Welcome.
Thank you. We have selected through the RFP process Traditions for our lighting contractor for Wild Lights. They will design, install, maintain, and take care of all of the lights for our 1.5-mile route. Included in this is all of the equipment needed, the box trucks, the aerial lifts, materials, tools, all of that to do this installation. And Wild Lights is our holiday lighting event that is 6 weeks in November and December over 25 nights. We have traditional walkthrough nights, drive-through nights, and last year we had our first ever dog night. And we welcome any questions.
Members of the committee? How was Dog Night? Was it a big event?
It was big. So we had over 300 dogs, and that was our limit. So we sold out, and it was really amazing. It was really special.
So the dogs had their own private ticket?
They had a ticket.
How
Indeed.
much? Was it based on the size of the dog, or just?
That's a cute idea. It was $20 a dog.
$20 a dog, and you sold how many? 300?
300, yes.
You made some quick money there.
It was. It was really fun.
Are you going to do a dog night again? Are
We absolutely are, yes.
you going to do more than one dog night? Are
We're thinking about it, yes.
you going to raise the price?
You might see it throughout the year, too, different dog things, yes.
Has this been one of the best fundraising ideas the zoo has come up with?
It has been pretty special, yeah. It took a lot of innovation for us, and kudos to Amos and our animal staff for really supporting that idea, and it was really fun and special.
How did the dogs respond to the other animals in the zoo? Was there an issue with,
So we did some test runs, so we actually had staff come in a few weeks before for us to test it out. And so our animal staff was there to observe and watch everything. And so that gave us what we needed to actually open it up for the public.
Really? So you took the dogs in like the ape?
Well, we didn't have buildings open, so it was just outside. So it was along the Wild Lights route.
Okay.
So only dogs outside.
Monkeys and the Japanese monkeys, were they
They
okay?
were not outside. So we were really selective in who was out and who was in. Yeah.
And maybe were there any dog fights?
There was not, no. They're very
No?
well behaved.
Sounds. So, I wish I've seen some very poorly behaved dogs. Yeah. Supervisor Martin just pointed out that non-behaved dogs usually have non-behaved owners. So, all right. Well, I think this is fantastic. I think this is really a major thing. This is an information item only. I think finance is going to be hearing about this again. Any other questions from committee members or non-committee members? Keep up the great work you're doing. You guys have a huge charge of fundraising also, so keep that up. And I love this dog idea. I think it's great for the community. Actually, I want to put this in my newsletter. In this newsletter, once we start doing newsletters again, I think the general public, I know my district will absolutely want us put in there, so they'll want to get tickets. And definitely do it more than one day a year. I think it's definitely a winner. So thank you. All right, next item.
Thank you. Item 4 from the Economic Development Director, Department of Administrative Services, providing an informational report from Campbell and Company regarding capital campaigns. This item is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Good morning, Chair, Supervisors. I'm Celia Benton, Director of Economic Development and Real Estate Services. At the September 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Committee on Parks and Culture, there was a discussion related to capital campaigns, and a follow-up information report was requested. This report will be provided by Julia McGuire, co-president from Campbell and Company, in collaboration with Milwaukee County's nonprofit partners that are pursuing capital campaigns. I'll turn it over to Julia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. Is it okay if I share a small presentation?
Absolutely, please.
Thank you. Let's make sure I can do this properly.
I got you otherwise.
Let's see. There we go. So thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Julia McGuire. I've been in fundraising for 35 years and with Campbell and Company for more than 25 years, and I'm currently serving as co-president. Let's see. Is that working or no? Just going to see if this is going to move with me. There we go. Just a little bit about Campbell and Company. We were founded in 1976. We are 100% employee-owned since 1986, so every employee at our firm owns the company. We have partnered with more than 1,100 clients to deliver 3,300 projects nationwide. So we are on the cutting edge of fundraising and fundraising information. We're members of the Giving Institute, and one of our staff members sits on the board of the group that creates the Giving USA data and analyzes that data of giving every year. In just this last calendar year, we had 153 clients across 25 different states, and we've worked with 16 organizations in Milwaukee, many of them multiple times. What makes a campaign different from annual fund? A campaign identifies fundable priorities that serve the mission and creates a platform for focused, time-limited fundraising around these priorities. So building a new building on top of fundraising for the operations of a museum, building a new building on top of operations for a symphony. Those are the things, they are specific projects, specific amounts of money, specific time frame, and above and beyond the annual fund. Over time, not only do you raise that money, but you create a greater brand awareness, success. It focuses public attention on your organization and its future, and it really helps to stabilize and increase the capacity of your overall fundraising when you're on the other side of that campaign. Campaign gifts are different than annual fund gifts. They are transformational, not transactional. So they're sometimes once in a lifetime, sometimes first in a lifetime, but they're stop and think gifts. They take a great deal of conversation. They're not gifts that are made through an Apple Pay on your phone traditionally during these initial campaign gifts. They're usually paid over multiple years, and that can be evenly spread over 3 to 5 years. It can be a balloon pledge that's paid more at the end of that campaign, and it's usually done sometimes through income, but sometimes through assets that people are holding. To get these gifts at this level in capital campaigns can sometimes take up to 18 months. It's multiple conversations, multiple education opportunities, and usually there's more than one decision maker involved, whether it be a spouse, partner, children, a board at a foundation. So very much a time and staff-intensive process as well as volunteer process as well. When we help organizations plan for a campaign, we look at a number of different things. We look at the context, both the internal and external factors, and we know with every client there are many to consider, both internally and externally. We think of the goal as depicted by the center of the wheel of this work is to arrive at a campaign strategy that will be successful for the organization to achieve its vision. We look through 4 lenses during that study and ask and answer a series of questions that are critical to the success of a campaign. So we look at the case. Is the vision compelling? Is it clear? What's the communications rationale? And how are people reacting to that and responding to that? With leadership, we want to make sure we have visible leaders to champion, not just in the organization itself, but volunteer leadership, community leadership that are willing to make connections, share the story, and actually solicit some of the gifts. We look at donor engagement. We want to make sure there's a strong base of donors that are already interested in the organization, and then strategies to build relationships that result in extraordinary giving through a campaign and this movement forward for an organization. And of course, there are back office things that need to be done when you raise the kind of money that you raise during a campaign. So how do we put that back office support, staffing, and systems in motion and manage that higher level of development activity and make sure we're doing it in a way that builds towards the future of giving as well, so that any increase in operating costs and additional fundraising needed, that the systems and staff are prepared for that at the end of the campaign. This is a sample campaign timeline, and the one thing I can assure you of is that no campaign timeline at the beginning of the campaign is the same at the end of the campaign. But this is a general one that we start with. So there's a campaign preparation stage, usually 1 year or more. And it really depends on how mature the donor base is and their engagement with the organization. But that's where we focus on campaign case materials, building some of that. We get the board engaged and committing to this campaign. We think about outside of the board, other volunteer leaders in the community that might come and be part of this. And we start building that pipeline and the plan to hit those benchmarks that we want to hit along the way to know that we are on the right path, or whether or not we need to sort of shift and pivot and start another way to get to the dollars that are needed. In the leadership and major giving phase, that it's usually about 2 to 3 years, again, depending on the organization. Universities, for example, usually do this in about 8 to 10 years. But there's leadership donor conversations. These are those 18, 24-month conversations getting people involved. There's cultivation, education, solicitation in that time. Continuing to build out campaign messaging. So we have that initial case that's shared one-on-one, then we keep building out that messaging as we talk to people, have it be something that can be more rapidly produced as we go out to more and more people. And again, we really want to track progress and reassess goal. The goal is actually not shared publicly until this culmination phase or public phase that you referred to earlier. This is where we announce the campaign and its final goal. There's broad campaign communications. This is where we do send out emails. We do send out other direct marketing. We invite people in to be part of this successful campaign so that everyone can be engaged and involved and everyone has the opportunity to have their name up in recognition. And this is also where we're stewarding donors from earlier in the campaign. There are usually still 1 or 2 lead gifts. There are donors who really like to make what we refer to as a capstone gift. So we don't assume that all the money in the public phase will be coming from smaller gifts, but we do want a path forward in that time frame. And this is where we celebrate our success, how exciting it is to have reached the goal, and that all these other individuals, foundations are able to join us in the success of fundraising and making the vision a reality. How do we track a campaign? I mentioned setting some benchmarks for success early in the process. And the organization board is kept informed along the way, receives reports from the staff. How are we doing towards benchmarks? When do we need to readjust our approach? When do we need to add more people to our pipeline? When do we need more volunteers? What are other ways where we can course correct where needed or accelerate if things are going very well, or increase the goal when things are going very well. The pipeline crosses over fiscal and calendar years. It's unlike a business forecast. The decisions are made by individuals and they have personal decisions and impact that they have that impacts their decision. And so we don't you don't really share prospective donors' names during the cultivation period before they're solicited because it's an ongoing conversation and we don't want that pressure. The preparation and leadership phases, again, are very personalized, very strategic, and very engaging to ensure that the prospective donor and their needs are heard in that conversation. The donors determine the giving schedule, whether it's around their life events, travel, illness, celebrations, equity moments around stock, inheritance, sale of a company, and tax implications that they have in mind. And so sometimes we have people who bundle their giving. Sometimes people are putting their funds into a donor-advised fund and giving from that. And again, some donors may request anonymity. They may not wish to have their name even after they've made a gift publicly known, and we honor that when that is a donor's request. The other piece is that a lot of giving happens at the end of the year. A third of all giving occurs in December. So if we're looking at a report in September, it can show us as being behind our end of year goal, but if we know that 33, 34%, and that's across all organizations, some organizations are very heavily weighted into that end of year giving. So just another thing to consider when we're looking at these reports. So that for that reason, formal reporting is done once a year publicly, usually through the annual report and after prime giving season. And lastly, I just wanted to share, there's a lot of not-for-profit audits and reporting that keep the eye on the fundraising of all organizations. So you don't need me to read all this to you, but these are just some interesting ways at the federal level, in Wisconsin itself, grant and lender requirements, and the organization's own bylaws and governance, because public trust is one of the most important things in fundraising. Many of you who might be involved with not-for-profits have heard of the time, talent, and treasure. and trust. If we don't have that trust by being good financial stewards of those dollars, it becomes harder to raise money after the campaign. So with that, shall I stop sharing? And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I'll go right to my committee members. Committee members, questions? Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I'm glad we could hear this and make this public, as well as we do have a couple capital campaigns going on in terms of county-related assets, because I think sometimes there's some mystery behind it, and especially when we talk about government accountability and government transparency. So thank you for updating on this process, so that when Dr. Senske comes to us with updates, we can now see a little bit behind, how much it really takes to get where we are. So I appreciate that. And I just want to share, I worked very briefly with Campbell and Company 1,000 years ago for a capital campaign when I was with WBEZ in Chicago.
Yes.
And it was it was Mark Hilton, exactly. Whopping $7 million to get them to move to Navy Pier. So,
there you go.
Yeah. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Other members of the committee? Non-committee members? I'd like to say thank you very much for your presentation. I have to tell you that I'm kind of looking at our audience of who's here today, and we really have who's who of Milwaukee County's fundraisers are in this room. They have titles from directors to executive directors and presidents, but really there's been you have a huge audience, and very rarely do I ever see anyone stay later than after they do presentations. In our audience, we have, Amos Morris from the zoo. We have Ellen Zensky with her spectacular report from the Milwaukee Public Museum. Barbara Velez, who's going to be speaking very quickly about Villa Terrace. We have Kevin Jolento from Marcus. Krista, I'm sure, Diesendorf is from the Dome Zahn. I know Parks is here with Guy Smith, and I'm sure Becca Stoner's in the background listening to your report. So very rarely we have the who's who of Milwaukee County culturals listening to a report. So this has been very unique. Thank you very much for your presentation. I have to ask you, after hearing just one point, $212 million was raised by the Milwaukee Public Museum. I mean, what do you think of that for a campaign? I mean, you work with campaigns all the time. People said it couldn't be done. What are your thoughts?
I think it's outstanding, and it's going to be one of the stories I'm going to talk about for generations. Truly, it's really impressive, and it speaks very highly to the museum and people's love for the museum. It speaks very highly of Wisconsin's philanthropic community, and specifically Milwaukee's philanthropic community.
Yeah. I also want to point out Barbara Velez accomplished a goal that was before anyone thought she could pull it off. I don't know, are you aware of that story, the Villa Terrace story? It's another story that's to be told in the community. I mean, raised money quicker than anyone else expected. People, really thought it was going to fail and pulled it off. And every one of these fundraisers, every one I've just mentioned really has a story to tell, and they've really worked very hard for our community. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Very much. Appreciate it.
Next item up.
Item 5 from the Director, Economic Development, Department of Administrative Services, providing an informational report on Villa Terrace Museum and Gardens, LTD 2025 Annual Report. This item is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Chair, Supervisor Celia Benton, and to your last comment, Chair, I just want to take a moment before I pass it on to Barbara Velez with the Villa Terrace Museum and Gardens. I'm really excited about how well this transition is going, from fundraising to programming and more. I mean, this is why we're doing this kind of work. We are sticking to our strategy. We're supporting culturals as they transition to sustainability while reducing our own liability, and it's working. It's going well. A lot of it is thanks to Barbara Velez, and I will pass it to her to discuss the annual report.
Gosh, it's not even my birthday. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think everyone who listened to Julia's report learned something. And I would say that one of the significant things about any successful campaign is a passion. And the passion for culturals in Milwaukee is thriving. I am personally delighted with the progress of the museum because I would say to you as a fundraiser, I looked a little, wow, after the fundraising for the Milwaukee Symphony. I thought, now we're starting the museum. Holy moly, what's going to happen? And I think it's just wonderful. So I'm here with the good news for Villa Terrace, also a museum. That campaign is finished. It was finished in less than 12 months. It was a combination of people interested in the preservation of Villa Terrace as an iconic testimony to Milwaukee's history and architecture. It would not have happened without Milwaukee County's help. I can tell you that the split, the pie, was about 29% from Milwaukee County, 29% from foundations, and 42% from individuals. And that number is impressive in as much as it shows in a highly competitive fundraising environment that people do care about our history and will work hard to preserve it. I can tell you that as of today, we have signed a contract to initiate the work, primarily the masonry work. 60% of the fundraising goal was going to be for the expense of the masonry that needs to be repaired and refurbished and sustained for years to come. So we have done that. We're signing the contract today. As far as the other things covered by this campaign, includes HVAC upgrade, fire protection. This wonderful museum does not have fire protection, which will be remedied almost immediately. Some minor plumbing work and some minor cosmetic work. In addition to raising the money, we also are very, very conservative fiscal stewards of that money. And so we've negotiated probably almost as long as it took to raise the money, the negotiations for how much these renovations were going to cost took. But we sharpened our pencil, and I'm delighted to say that with the money raised, we will be creating the endowment, which is part of our development agreement with Milwaukee County. We anticipate being able to do that very soon. We have the money, quite frankly. We're just waiting for the bills to come in once the renovations start, because as we know and as was mentioned, you can have a contract. We negotiated not to exceed contracts, so we know what that dollar figure is going to be. But as Julia told you, often in campaigns, payments are made through pledges and through a period of time. We will collect probably 80% of the money raised by 2027, but there will be some additional payments in 2028 from donors. We are very confident of being able to meet all of the requirements, very, very cautiously negotiated by Milwaukee County, and so we're very happy about that. So moving on to our operations, I can tell you that again, in terms of being fiscal stewards of this treasure, we are anticipating utilizing only 16% of the revenue for operations. That's on an annual basis. We do not ever expect to go over 20% of money generated for operations. So we look for a very healthy bottom line for years to come. Speaking of fundraising, we have a biennial gala held every other year. This year is the gala year. It will be held on July 18th of 2026. Historically, the gala has always raised money for the gardens, and this year is no different. However, all money raised at the gala will go to restore, repair, and engineer the tram that leads from the terrace to the gardens and back. Those of you who have been to Villa Terrace, the 92 steps going down are brutal, going up almost impossible, unless you're Sheldon and Wendy Wasserman, who ran up the stairs at the last gala in the pouring rain. Impressive indeed. So I'm sure, Supervisor Wasserman, you will be around for the next term. I can also tell you that as of yesterday, we did secure our presenting sponsor for the gala, and fundraising continues. Villa Terrace, I've been involved in preservation for several decades. I was the original fundraising chairperson for the Pabst Mansion, who purchased it from the Archdiocese when it was headed for the destruction thing, wrecking ball. And so I've been around for a while in preservation, but I've also worked on social services initiatives as well. Villa Terrace has a really, really special place in this community. I was happily surprised. I did approach this campaign with a degree of trepidation because I knew about the museum. I knew about MSO just being completed. I knew about Veterans Park. I knew about a veterans home. There were a lot of very wonderful, worthwhile fundraising efforts ongoing. But Villa Terrace was not only an attainable goal, it was not grandiose, it was pretty tight, frankly, but it was a good, feel-good project, and it was something that we could get done and that people believed in. So I am very grateful. The Board of Directors is extremely happy, and I can move on to other projects. Questions?
Thank you very much. Questions from committee members? Non-committee members? I just want to say, once again, thank you for the work that you've done. I would hope that you do not give up your responsibilities at Villa Terrace. I think they need you for a long time to come.
Well, it's not as critical, but no, I am a member of the board, I am on the leadership team, and I am their principal fundraiser, so that will remain for as long as you're a supervisor.
Thank you on behalf of Milwaukee County for what you've been able to accomplish and really helping Milwaukee County taxpayers as well as just the citizens of Milwaukee and really saving a wonderful asset.
Yeah, we're very excited. I can tell you that in terms of numbers, which I should have said, our garden opening, for example, last June, attracted more than 3,000 people from Milwaukee. Now, we're located in a little pocket on the east side of Milwaukee. You got to go down 92 steps to get to the gardens, okay? And we had 3,000 people go through it just at the opening. We're anticipating this year to even have more. So thank you, Milwaukee County. Thank you, Milwaukee County leadership. And thank you to the residents of Wisconsin.
Thank you very much. All right. So thank you, Celia, too. Next item up.
Item 6 from the Executive Director of Parks requesting to amend Milwaukee County General Ordinance, Chapter 13, guidelines for county departments establishing partnerships with support groups.
Supervisor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move lay over to the call of the chair of this item.
Any questions, concerns? Ms. Evans, if you'll call a vote.
On the motion by Supervisor Martin that item number 6 be laid over to the call of the chairperson, Supervisor Taylor, District 17.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Cogs Jones.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 noes. The motion prevails.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Oh, Supervisor Cox Jones, I apologize.
No, Thank you so much. I just wanted to let you know that I've been having video setting issues for the meeting. I've been working with IT and my assistant to resolve the matter, but I just wanted to let you know and for the record to be shown that I am just currently having some video issues. I'm even trying to pull it up on my phone as well. So I just wanted to let you know that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, and we will watch out for you, and if you have a problem, you can just give me a call or have your aide call us. We want to make sure you're representing our committee and your community.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is item number 7. Ms. Evans.
Item 7 from the Executive Director of Parks, providing an informational report on the Fund for the Arts Community Survey. This item is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Supervisors. Jim Tarantino, Deputy Director of Milwaukee County Parks. Online, we have a couple of members of the CAMPAC committee, Katerina Horen, who's the chairwoman of the committee, and LaShondra Vernon was on earlier. So I'm really presenting on behalf of CAMPAC. A little bit of why we're here. In September, we had presented the 2025 slate of grants for the Fund for the Arts. And the county board did eventually approve that slate of grants, but with it came a resolution that asked that CAMPAC and the Parks Department present recommendations for revised grant criteria to the county board by the June 2026 meeting cycle for review and approval. So what we're here today is to provide a little bit of an opportunity to have an open dialogue with members of this committee and CAMPAC and myself to get a sense of what are your priorities, what criteria should we be looking at, so we have an informed recommendation when we come back before you. That could be in May, that could be in June. To help inform that decision, we, as a group, decided to put together a community survey, and so I have some of the results of that survey that I can share with you. We wanted to have the community voice as part of this process, so our department put together a survey. It was live. It is still live, so we're still collecting feedback on it, but we had a CAMPAC meeting at the end of January. I took a 2-week sample of that survey, provided some of those results. So before we move into the dialogue, I just wanted to share the results of that survey, and this is attached to your file. So first, there were 2 questions. The first was, who are you? What best describes your role? And we had 327 responses to the survey over that 2-week period. I'll read it because it's hard to see on the screen there, but 151 responses, or about half, were community stakeholders, i.e. not associated or affiliated directly with one of the arts groups that receives funding from the Fund for the Arts. 36%, or 117 responses, were representatives of organizations that received Milwaukee County funding for arts programming. 25 were other funders, and 33 fell into the other category. And we asked one question, which is from a list of 6 potential funding frameworks, which do you most prefer? So it was really a preference survey. And I will read what the results were because it's hard to interpret. But of those 327 responses, the number one option was prioritize small organizations. Provide funding only to those organizations with small budgets, for example, under $1 million in annual expenses. We had 119 responses, or 37% for that response. The second was provide funding to organizations of any size, with more funding provided to larger groups on a scale that matches their impact. 83 responses, or 26%. Third was provide funding in a way that supports achieving racial equity. 45 responses. Equal distribution, which is continue to distribute funding equally to all qualified organizations. 37 responses. Align with the City Arts Board funding model. This received 32 responses, and that funding model is a 2-tiered system. And last, with 7 responses, was prioritize large organizations. So this is really just a snapshot of community feedback. This is not meant to drive a decision one way or another, but we thought it was an important data point for both the CAMPAC group and this committee. We also had a field for open-ended responses, and there were hundreds of 300 responses, so I tried to kind of distill those down into some themes, and I think that's really what the value of this survey is to get a sense of themes, not one scenario versus another specifically. But some of the themes were that the county's goals related to achieving racial equity are laudable, and they can be embedded as a criteria within the grant-making framework rather than just as a standalone consideration. There was a lot of support for a two-tiered system that maintains support for all organizations while providing an additional incentive related to impact. Scale of impact is a major question, and I struggle with that question. How do you measure impact, and how do you fund it and incentivize it? I've met with community arts groups, I've met with UPAF, and the same question comes up over and over again of how do you best measure impact? It seems to be more of an art than a science. The way we've been doing it for years, for decades, is linked to the size of an organization's budget or annual expenses. But there's some questions of depth of impact. If an organization serves 10 individuals and changes their lives through their programming, is that something we want to incentivize versus an organization that serves thousands of individuals at a surface level? And when we're making grants, if impact is self-reported by the applicant, how do we verify what's reported? If everyone has the same incentive to inflate or overstate their impact in a grant-making process, what sort of protections or verifications can we put in place? There was significant support in that open-ended essay response for supporting small organizations for various reasons. There was also comments to consider providing support for for-profit arts-based organizations in addition to nonprofit organizations for those individuals to whom art is a career. Those may not be affiliated with a nonprofit, are still providing the same types of cultural, artistic, and musical programming services that we're trying to incentivize through this grant program. So again, what we're here for today is to hear your thoughts. Of course, feel free to share them with me at any time, but my goal is to come back with an informed recommendation from both the CAMPAC members and this committee for your approval in the future. Again, I see the chairwoman of CAMPAC, Katerina, is on the camera in case you have questions or comments for either of us.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tarantino. Members of the committee and supervisors who are not on the committee who are listening, I met with Guy Smith and Jim Tarantino prior to this meeting, and I thought it would be important that we as a committee who has the ultimate authority on the final decision on this, have a chance to just express our views on what we think on how CAMPAC should be awarded. I thought it would be fair that we all have a chance to just discuss what we have, and I think there is going to be no right answer on this, and I'm not expecting every one of us to have a uniform answer. It's impossible. This is an art and not a science. This is personal. We come to this table with different walks of backgrounds, and but we all have, at the end of the day, have to come up with a recommendation for CAMPAC to see what they want to do. And so what I want this to be is like an open discussion, open hearing to just discuss what your thoughts are, and they're going to just take into note what the general consensus is, and they're going to come to us later on with their recommendations, and we'll have to review it. But I want a chance for us all to discuss what our thoughts are at this point. So who would like to go first? Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. And I think that is absolutely correct that this is not going to be an easy answer. I think we've seen a lot of the funding community, like such as the United Way, really sort of reanalyze how they are distributing funds and how they're measuring impact and where their focus is. So I guess for me, because CAMPAC is representative of the arts community, and these are arts professionals or people who are very close to the practice. I would like to know, I guess, as in terms of representation on that board, what does that look like from a geographical perspective across Milwaukee County? What does representation on the CAMPAC board look like in terms of institution size and affiliation? Because I feel like these are people with expertise and also more tentacles into the arts community, so they would have better understanding. I'd like to hear the recommendations, but I'd also like to understand the makeup of CAMPAC. Because as part of this discussion, I believe we all received the same email from another member of the arts community who expressed concern specifically about the survey, and I know we had a chance to talk about that, and as you said today, it's not the only data point, but it is one data point to inform our decision-making. So I guess I would like to hear more, again, sort of what the makeup of CAMPAC is and how their discussions have been. But I'd like to be ensured that the representatives, again, are accurately representing the diversity of Milwaukee County as well. Thanks.
To respond, I mean, I can follow up with an informational, December and January into February board cycles, we had the reappointments to the CAMPAC process. So I think there were 7 members with resumes and information attached at those meetings. So I can pull that together. But I don't want to speak for folks as long as we have 2 on the call. Invite Katerina to jump in, or LaShondra if they have feedback.
Would you like to speak, CAMPAC Chair?
I'll just say that without the bios in front of me, I don't feel like I can accurately address the question. I mean, I can tell you about my background, but I feel like it would probably be more helpful to look at the whole committee and our backgrounds to answer that question. Does that make sense?
Sure. I think that we could get sort of like a bio, Mr. Tarantino, of who the CAMPAC members are to my committee for Parks and Culture. I think it would be very helpful, and especially in future dealings. So,
Yeah, thank you. And I know we've had that sort of piecemeal as each appointee has come through, but I guess to have it sort of consolidated for one review would be super helpful to me anyway. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Other members? Steve? Other committee?
Well,
Supervisor Taylor.
I guess I didn't realize we were going to have kind of like a roundtable discussion. I wouldn't fund it at all, which is probably not a shocker to anyone. I mean, the state of Wisconsin, we're last in the country, I think, so I don't think it's our problem as a county board to do things that maybe the state government should be doing in terms of funding. I look at the list of deferred maintenance and our seniors and our roads. I just think all the things that we could be spending money on, there's wants and there's needs, and I don't think this is a priority. On top of that, this is going to be the 3rd funding mechanism we're going to come up with in a very short period of time. We're not going to make everyone happy. The culturals, they're all opinionated. And there's 60-some that are getting money, right? I think it's like 60-some that applied, and we just divided it equally. And if you ask each one an opinion, you're going to get an opinion from each. So no matter what we do, we're not going to satisfy everybody. Some are more outspoken than others. We've seen that from the emails from certain individuals, from certain organizations. So frankly, we're in a no-win situation. Whatever you propose, whatever we land on, is not going to be good enough for some. So I'd rather get out of the game and put it towards other areas where that I had prioritized much higher.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Taylor.
Yes.
I think it's an important opinion to have. Other people? I have a hand up. Is that who's LV? Is this some?
LaShondra Vernon, who's a member of the CAMPAC committee.
That's. Would you like to? You're a member of the CAMPAC committee. That's LaShondra. Would you like to say something with your hand up? I don't see your picture.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I apologize if it's a bit loud. I'm in a coffee shop for another meeting. I just wanted to respond to some of what I heard about potentially scrapping this committee. As one of the people that's been reappointed, I don't think this should be about opinion. There's better data that we can get about how to utilize the resources. And if we are close to dead last, eliminating another stream of funding for arts and culture organizations would further exacerbate that point. And so from my perspective, I have a long career in the arts and culture sector, and really would like us to have a better conversation about how we can advocate on the state level to make sure that the county board is going after resources to match their investment instead of scrapping it and thinking that it will impact other areas in a positive way. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. I had difficulty hearing all of your what you said because of just the technology. I guess my comment. I'd like to make some comments on this. In my communication with the Parks Department, I don't like the two-tier of $3,000 and $6,000 for allotments. I would personally like to break it up into maybe the smallest allotment, maybe $250 or $500 to a larger amount that's really at this point undisclosed. I mean, smaller groups, $250 or $500 is a huge amount of money for small groups, but at the same time, a huge group, it's nothing. So I think that there should be different levels. Maybe start at $250 or $500 at the lowest level, and then go up to maybe a $10,000 level, and then have specific categories. Maybe 5 or 6 categories of that spread. Then look at the organization and look at the track record of this organization. What have they contributed to the community? What are their, what have they done in terms of racial equity and all the other equities? I mean, what's their proven track record? Are they a future potential or a proven track holder? Are really some of the things that I'd like to see in it. But I don't think we definitely have to go in different routes. I think there should be smaller amounts for smaller fees, but a one-size-fits-all is absolutely, we're never going to make that. Everyone's going to be unhappy, except for the very small organization that got a windfall. So that's my recommendation, my thoughts. Other comments? All right. Thank you very much for your participation. Anybody who would like to talk further to CAMPAC, Mr. Tarantino, Ms. Herron, hope I'm saying your last name, is a chair. We will definitely be in communication with you. But thank you very much for bringing this up. I just wanted this to be an open discussion, and all comments are welcome. Well, one second. I think I have one thing from one of my colleagues here. No, if I was another supervisor who wanted to talk, but we're finished with that. And let's take up the next issue.
Item 8 from the Executive Director of Parks, providing an informational report on entering into a potential easement with American Transmission Company, ATC, on county-owned land. This item is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Introduce yourself.
Robert Singlop, Contracts Manager, Milwaukee County Parks. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, if you don't mind, I'd like to share a quick PowerPoint.
Please go ahead.
All right, so here to talk about potential ATC easement near the Menominee River, kind of in between the Zoo Freeway and West Silver Spring Drive. So a little bit of background. The Mill Road Grainsville transmission line project is being constructed to strengthen the regional electric grid, improve system reliability, and meet increasing energy demand from existing customers as well as new large-scale electrical loads. The project is upgrading aging transmission infrastructure, adds a new substation, and prevents violations of mandatory electrical reliability standards. The Wisconsin Public Service Commission has formally determined that this project is necessary to ensure an adequate and reliable supply of electric power for the region. The project is therefore a critical component of maintaining stability, public safety, and economic development capacity in southeastern Wisconsin. So ATC, at the request of the Public Service Commission, evaluated alternative routes for the project. However, it was determined that the alternatives would be more expensive and have greater environmental impacts. Energy efficiency and demand response measures were determined to be technically and economically insufficient to resolve the identified reliability deficiencies, and also a no-build option was rejected because it would leave the system in violation of mandatory reliability standards. So obviously this is informational. I wanted to bring your attention. If we do move forward, we would bring this in the next cycle as an action item for your approval. So some of the terms would be the easement's permanent. For public infrastructure like this, we have an easement fee of $1.60 per square foot of the easement area. The easement size is about 48,734 square feet, which would bring the total easement fee to $77,974.40. Here's an aerial map. If you look, I don't know if my cursor will show up there. ATC already has an easement to the right where my cursor is. They got that by assignment from the Wisconsin Electric Company about 20 years ago. But this would be expanding it a little bit and then heading south. And here's just a map that they provided. This is where they would access the area to put in the new line. And that is all. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Yes, Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. Is this project in any way related to the We Energy's construction of new gas plants in Oak Creek and elsewhere in the region?
It could be. They did not disclose, but I'm happy to reach out to them and have that information for the next meeting.
Thank you. And I guess my follow-up question to that would be, because construction of these new gas plants does pose challenges to the way that Milwaukee County is able to reach our sustainability goals, do we have any leverage points in this process to emphasize Milwaukee County's desire for more sustainable energy sources?
It's certainly possible. I think, obviously we would want to weigh in with Corp Counsel. One of the things that is interesting, I point out on this, is that the Wisconsin Public Service Commission has approved this project. So there is the possibility that this could move forward without your guys' approval. And again, that's not for me to determine. That would be a Corp Counsel question. But it is certainly something I'd be willing to talk to them about and talk with you about to see if there's, anything that you would like to see added or changed.
Sure, and at a minimum, knowing the sort of nexus of this would be helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Other questions? Supervisor Luxon.
Thank you, Chairman. I know this is information only, but I see no fiscal note. In the past, if we've offered easements, Milwaukee County also received compensation for that, and I was wondering if there was a reason that was not included in this particular item.
Robert, I think if you want to address her concerns.
That there is no fiscal? My understanding...
There is
It was an informational report. It wasn't an action item. The fiscal note would be provided at the next committee if we decide to move in that direction.
Supervisor Luxon, this was more of just a report. They're going to come before us again with a fiscal note. Well, it's a $79,000 benefit for us, and they're going to be coming to us for an action item at the next meeting. This is more just to tell us what's going on.
Totally get it. Thank you.
Sure. The one question in agenda setting, I was asking about Dane County. What did you, I don't know if you got the follow-up, how much is Dane County getting per foot for easement?
I do not know the answer off the top of my head.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, Guy Smith, Executive Director from Milwaukee County Park. So based off of agenda set, Supervisor Wasserman, I did reach out to my colleagues in Dane County, the Parks Director for Dane County Parks, as well as real estate coordinator for the land and water conservation. They actually do not have a super robust system in place. They had based a lot of their pricing on DNR guidance from about 9 years ago. So they actually were interested in our process that I know that over the past couple of years that we've developed as far as costs for easements. So I did do some follow-up, and actually they're interested as we continue through this process and when we come before you potentially with an action item that we'll be sharing some of that information so that both of our counties can be aligned.
Sure, yeah. Well, did DNR have a specific number that they're using in advice, or?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can go back into my correspondence with Dane County.
Thank you very much. All right. Yes, Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair. One follow-up question. So on one of the slides, it says ATC evaluated alternative routes, but this was determined to be the better one because others would have greater environmental impacts. So have they shared with you what the environmental impact is of this particular route?
No, not yet. That was part of the Wisconsin PSC determination. A lot of it would be going through when we were looking at some of the alternatives provided. There was no report attached, but looking at the locations, it could be through some of our natural areas of concern with dealing with contaminated soil and things like that.
Sorry, in the alternatives or in this?
In the alternatives.
Okay. And this one seems to be avoiding some of those areas of concern?
Yeah. And there was also, there wasn't, I have it in the report, happy to look at it. Where is it? That some of the alternatives also created new right-of-way concerns. This proposal complied with Wisconsin's energy's priority laws, and there was no other higher priority scoring for the alternative routes.
Okay, thank you. If you do come across any of the...
Yeah, I'm happy. We'll definitely reach out to them.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I think I'm very happy that Parks Department brought this as an information item, and because of their questions from the committee members and before it's ready, it's nice to have an information item and then we'll have the action item later. So this was perfect to address some of these concerns. So thank you. Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to the next topic. Number 9.
Item 9 from the Executive Director of Parks, providing an informational update on the activities of the Safety, Security, and Training Team from 2025. This item is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Supervisors. Thank you for having me. Todd Pizarski of Milwaukee County Parks, Manager of Safety, Security, and Training, also the Park Ranger Program. Permission to share?
Please go ahead.
All righty. This is my 4th time presenting to this committee, so thank you again for having me. My wife says I am very long-winded and bloviated, so I will try and keep this as brief as possible. I know this is on file, and a lot of the material is kind of carry over from year to year, just different information, so. Let's see here. These are our patrol hours. Excuse me, let me go back one. My apologies, I skipped one. I had 2025 goals, and with these goals, we did accomplish them. We didn't accomplish them fully, but let me just kind of explain a little bit. Our goal in 2025 was to sponsor our park rangers to go through Spanish class and kind of get some conversational Spanish. We weren't able to do that. We were able to get some other training through MATC, through the criminal justice program, defensive driving, and personal safety. We are talking right now with MATC to get that bilingual or some Spanish conversation, so we're able to better serve our community. One of the other things too is I had a very high goal of increasing our fee compliance by 10%. We didn't increase it by 10%, but we did increase it. It was just 4.3%. A couple of the other things that we tried to do is we applied for grants through our grants coordinator. It has become a little bit more difficult. A lot of the grants that we are seeking out, they are specific to law enforcement. I know our grants coordinator has worked with the sheriff's office to see if we could tag along with some of those items, but up to this point, we haven't had any success. And of course, always to continue to expand our seasonal full-time recruitment. I'd like to say that this year we did reach out to the universities and technical schools in our areas. Of the 29 applicants for our seasonal patrol, 13 of them are current college students. That's significant to us because I believe we do a great job of communicating. And I think that's very key in being a law enforcement officer is communication. So if they could come, they could learn, be a part of the community, have fun, be a part of our team, and be a steward of Milwaukee County Parks, and then utilize that in our community, in their career, I think that's a fantastic thing. And of course, we always are looking to expand any kind of training or professional development with our staff. Our patrol hours, just kind of briefly going through this, we do 26 weeks of senior on call. We do a lot of China Lights. It's 47 days. So that's basically the only time we spend our overtime budget, that and sometimes being on pool decks when it's 85, 90, 95 degrees. Those are some of the things, maybe a special event here and there. Just to touch base, we put on almost 87,000 miles in our 6 vehicles, so they get very well used. That's a lot of gas. Speaking of the aquatics, we put on almost 720 hours at our pool decks in the summertime. Calls for service, we had 586 calls for service. Basically, the only time how we delineate our calls for service is calls that we receive on our hotline or calls that we receive from dispatch. So that's what these numbers are kind of demonstrating. 57.7% of our calls are for the summer months. Almost over 26% are for parking complaints. Almost 20% of calls are for unhoused challenges. And almost 93% of our calls are between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Of course, we have our general Ranger hotline, and the number is given right there, but anybody listening, 414-257-7777. And these are just some of the graphs and stats dictating in the central region, south region, and north region. One of the things we also do is we do fee compliance at some of our areas, dog exercise areas. We sold almost 2,000 permits in 2025. We patrolled over 1,800 hours at our dog parks. We opened up the downtown dog park August 20th. We've seen a lot of people there. It's a fantastic dog park. That was open on the 20th. Disc golf. We sold over 1,200 permits. Over 970 hours that we patrol. Sorry about that. Parking citations, everybody's favorite. Back in 2024, we did take this over from the sheriff's office. At that time, we had a handshake agreement where they would handle all of our parking citations. We would get $29 from every collected citation, and then they would take the remainder. We took that over in 2024. It's been a huge process, and we now are collecting $35 for every citation. We are collecting all the late fees in addition to that when they do pay. So that is significant for us. Instead of just getting $29, we are the ones that dictate if they call, if they want to contest it. we will have them go to court. We set it up with court, but at the same time, we now have the capability of working with that individual. Instead of somebody going all the way down to court, if they want to pay it, we could take a lesser fee if that's something that we wanted to, if that's something that is agreed upon by both parties, the person that received the citation as well as Parks. 40% of our issued citations were after parks closed, which is 10 p.m. at 99.9% of our parks. So I always say nothing really good happens after 10 p.m. in a park. And then on top of that, now we were waiting for triple approval. We have, it's our tax intercept. We did receive that. We are working on that right now to collect all of the late fees that have not been paid or outstanding citations. So we are working on that now. Dawn and my other staff have been very integral in getting that situated, as well as OCC. We had a 4.3% increase in our generated revenues, which includes the parking, disc, and dog. This is one of the very positive things that I like. We have so many community and special events that we're a part of, we're proud to be a part of. I'll just touch base on a few of them. China Lights, of course, takes a lot out of our staff. 47 days we spend there. Summer concert series at Washington, Humboldt, Berner. Awesome concert series that draw a lot of people. The King Back to School event, the turkey giveaway at King, the Kazi Egg Hunt, the King Kazi Breakfast with Santa, and of course a lot of our awesome lakefront special events like the drone show, the triathlon, and the air show. And this is pretty much my favorite page. I love my staff. I think I've said that in the past. My staff means everything to me. We get to go out and have fun, but also be a positive role model in the community. We get to work with a lot of different people, a lot of different community partners, and you could kind of see that here. So I'm very proud of my staff, and I love showing them off. Some of our accomplishments. I know sometimes accomplishments, fiscally, this, that. One of the things, mine is not always fiscally. One of the things that we did do this past summer is I developed a new summer ranger schedule. What this did is that it increased 60 hours on the weekends. And it was a 15-week initiative basically from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It increased 900 hours of patrol over the weekends, and especially during the busy times between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. And this is without creating any overtime, off time, or anything like that. Another successful accomplishment that we had is those two individuals that were right there. We did hire them as full-time. The one to the right is Nick G. He is a former Army. He worked for us as a seasonal ranger for 3 years. He just graduated this last year from UWM, and he is now on our second shift. The gentleman to the left is Dan Doherty. He's been with the county for over 31 years. We've been lucky to have him. I believe, hopefully, he will serve the remainder of his career with Milwaukee Parks on our team. They both have been fantastic. They work on second shift, which is very needed, and they're a fantastic addition to our team. And one of the other accomplishments that we had is working, the Parks Department working with Sheriff's Office, DHHS, other community partners to have suicide prevention signage placed on the lakefront. There's going to be more signage placed amongst our parks. In total, we'll have 40 when it's all said and done. It was a long collaboration, and my director, Vanessa, was able to get that kind of over the hump, which is fantastic. We were able to accomplish this and hopefully, serve somebody, the individuals that are in need. For 2026, I have some goals. Of course, our main goal is to create safe, welcoming, healthy parks by us building trust with the community, protecting our natural resources, and providing a visible, service-oriented ranger presence across all of our parks. One of my goals is to optimize coverage. We don't always hit every park every single month. One of my goals is to try, that's the optimal word, is try to hit every single park 3 times a month. If we could do it in the summertime, I'd be happy with that, but that's our goal. One of them, my second goal is to continue our cross-agency collaboration. We continue to talk with the sheriff's office in the off-season once a month on Fridays, but when the summer hits, we are meeting with them every single Friday to discuss issues, discuss upcoming events, things like that, and that's from the chief deputy to our executive director. A lot of those individuals, we talk and we collaborate and discuss a lot of awesome things and some of the issues that we have as well. But one of the goals is to hopefully possibly do that with OEM dispatch, because we utilize dispatch a lot, or DHHS, to kind of start some of those conversations and maybe have some of those meetings with them, maybe bi-monthly, whatever the case be. And then also adapt our strategies to evolving community needs. That's very key. Wanting to have patrol deployments that are adjusted seasonally using historical call for service data and community feedback. Utilize the information feedback from our community engagement team to adapt. I've already reached out to our community engagement manager. He's developed a survey that I'm still going over, and we're going to start by sending it out to our friends group. It's specific to the Ranger program to see what they see, if they even know about us, or what they know about us, what they want from us, what they want to see. So I think that'll be key to get some of that information in making some of those decisions moving forward. And of course, at the end, year-long focus, safe, welcoming parks for all, consistent emphasis on visibility, equity, and positive engagement across all of our Ranger activities that we do, whether it be just driving, or whether it be walking, riding our bikes in the Oak Leaf Trail, or at a special event. So that is it. If anybody has any questions, they want to discuss anything, of course, my standing open invitation for anybody to come and ride along with us, that is still open. Please contact me. I welcome you to come and see what we do, how we interact with the community, positively, sometimes on, sensitive situations, but I welcome you guys to do that. And if you kind of notate, you see our blue uniforms up there? We're switching over. We're switching over to this uniform. One, it's more cost efficient. Those blue uniforms, I could get 2.5 of these for one of those. Oftentimes, we have some individuals that may be very tall in stature, like 6'8", 6'9", so we have to special order those. These will be more fiscally responsible moving forward as we have to replace them. In addition, they're lighter, so when we are on pool decks at 95 degrees and 100% humidity, it'll breathe a lot easier as well. So we'll be moving to these. The goal is Memorial Day that we'll be having those out. So I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation and the energy you bring to it. I really appreciate it. I'm going to definitely take you up on that ride-along offer. I never got to it in my first term, but hopefully the second time. So a question about the Spanish language goals. Has that been done in coordination with the Office of Equity? I know that my colleague on the board, Supervisor Gomez-Tom, has been working really to highlight language accessibility throughout the county. And I guess, can you tell me a little bit about what the barriers have been to implementing that? Thanks.
Well, no. The goal is no, we haven't worked with that. We have a partnership with MATC where we're able to sponsor classes. We sponsor a lot of our full-time parks employees to professional development, whether it's one class or 12 credits, up to 12 credits. So that was our goal, is to look through MATC. So that is sponsored and paid for. So again, utilizing that allotment of money that we have annually, it was to go, and we specifically will try and develop with the instructors what we want, what our goals are out of this, the class itself. Right now, yeah, it is a little bit of a challenge. We often use Google Translate, so it is a challenge, absolutely.
Thank you. It's possible, I don't know, maybe the Office of Equity would have some resources available to that too as part of achieving their language accessibility goals, just something to consider.
Thank you.
May I continue with okay, thank you. And then in terms of the statistics, and you stated that most calls come in during the day, but are there rangers on call during the nighttime hours as well?
Yeah, so in the wintertime, a lot of times we're only on until 8 o'clock minus weekends. Fridays and Saturdays we'll be on till 11 p.m. In the summertime, we're only on until midnight. So essentially, when we are at full capacity in the summertime, it's anywhere from 6 in the morning till midnight, unless needed past that. So we're not at 24/7, but in the summer we do expand, because obviously in the summer there's more people visiting our parks, and then especially after hours.
Thank you. May I ask one more? Okay, thank you. I'm really glad to see the collaboration between the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Health and Human Services and Parks for establishing those 988 signs to help hopefully save some lives. Will there be any ability, I mean, it's hard to track the absence of something, but will there be any ability to find out if calls placed from Milwaukee County Parks were a result of the signage? Would there be ability to geo-track the source of calls?
I wouldn't be able to have that information. I think that would be a question for either OEM with dispatch, possibly even the sheriff's office, but I don't want to speak for either one of those departments.
Thank you, and thank you again for that really important effort. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Supervisor O'Connor. Supervisor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you again for your enthusiasm, and because it was like getting ready to be a snooze fest. So thank you so much for your energy and waking us up. Just to refresh my memory, what, in regards to the fees of the tickets that you issue, what is the actual percentage of actual collections versus those that you have to constantly pursue and add late collection fees on?
Over the years, probably I would go back 5-6 years, anywhere from 70, it's very broad, anywhere from 75 to 83% is the ones that we are collecting. When we were with the sheriff's office, they would suspend the license plates, so when you would go and register your license plates, they would be able to suspend those plates. We don't do that. We're just trying to get your money, essentially, but we will not suspend your license plates. But now moving forward with the trip, those are things that we could intercept that money and collect that.
Okay, thank you. Another question in regards to those tickets that are issued. Do we know if, especially with the parks closing after at 10 o'clock, and those folks and those tickets that are issued after 10 p.m., do we know if those are related to unhoused folks?
I couldn't tell you the yes or no, but my professional opinion would be no. Those citations are just for vehicles only. Normally what we do is when we write a citation, we will observe our area because it's after hours, so safety is a concern for us at that point in time. And then we'll go up to the vehicle and we'll make we'll go around the vehicle once and then go back, because we also have to get the VIN from the front of the vehicle. At that point in time, we're looking inside of the vehicle. So if there's anybody that is maybe sleeping in their vehicle in a park, we'll try to check on their welfare at that time. So I don't have a lot of those that I'm seeing. Definitely less than 1%, if that's the case.
Great, thank you for that. What prompted that question, I'm District 7, and McGovern Park is in District 7, and because I'm an insomniac, I get in my vehicle and I drive around the 7th District, and oftentimes I am noticing that there's 3 vehicles parked in the parking lot at McGovern Park, right outside of the senior center that is there. And I've often wondered if those folks are living in the park out of their vehicles. At one time I thought, oh, maybe their car just stalled and they're always in the same place. But no, they move it around on that same parking lot. Either it's on the west side of the lot or it's on the east side of the lot. So that's what drove that. And I don't know if you guys get out to McGovern Park often after dark to check out that parking lot.
We do. I wouldn't say that it's quite often, but if it's after midnight, I would suggest probably contacting the sheriffs to check on their welfare. That way they could possibly work with DHHS and their awesome homeless outreach team to possibly get them housing or anything further.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I yield back.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Martin. I just want to follow up with Supervisor Martin's questions. What percentage of the time do you guys work third shift? Like 11 to 7 in the morning? 11 to 6 in the morning?
0. We will often go till midnight in the summer, and then if it's really warm and we're seeing a lot of more individuals in the parks, we'll extend them to 2. We don't mandatory my staff. At that point in time, again, a lot of things, not everything after 10 p.m. after a park closes is good. It's criminal activity or whatever. So we want to be safe, and we would defer to the law enforcement at that point.
So typically you shut down at like 10 o'clock at night?
No,
except in the summertime when you go to midnight?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And we are not doing paperwork from, if we're ending at midnight, we're not doing paperwork from 10:30 to midnight. We are often out in the field until 11:45 and then completing that paperwork at that point in time.
Thank you. Do you also have like a list of your biggest parking ticket violators where you have like people with like thousands of dollars of, do you have some of those people?
I'm sure I could dig that up. However, I probably would venture to say that nobody would be more than 10 citations.
Say that again?
I would venture to say off the top of my head, don't quote me on this, that the biggest violator would have 10 citations or less.
So it's a really low key. Correct. You don't have like City of Milwaukee with tons of, okay.
Correct.
But you're still going after these people even though you try to get some money.
We try and give every opportunity for somebody to move, whether it be inside the park, dropping somebody off, dropping off equipment at a picnic area, whether it be on the lakefront. We'll announce, we'll go by and we'll use our loudspeaker and tell them that the parks are closed, have our lights on, be very obvious, and it's their choice at that point in time if they want to move. If they don't move, they receive the parking citation. So there's some, we give them an opportunity to move their vehicles.
Mm-hmm. How many times when you go out, when there's disc golf, you brought up, and regular golf, do people not pay?
I would say we get more compliance than not. However, there are a lot of folks that just don't want to pay at that point in time. We'll kind of explain our rules, give them options that if they stay, they have to pay. If they stay and not pay, you're kind of considered trespassing, but we'll give them every opportunity. They could, tell us to go pound sand. As long as they're telling us to go pound sand and walking away, that's fine with us. That's our goal, is to get voluntary compliance. We've had people that when the rangers show up at a dog park, they see us and they will lift their dogs over the fence and they will climb over the fence as well. So we have people, yes, that evade the rangers because they don't want to pay.
Mm-hmm. We have a huge problem in Milwaukee County right now with the transit. And we're being told over and over, transit, people aren't paying, they're getting on buses. I think Supervisor Sean Rowland just recently talked about, business people not paying, going on a freeway flyer. Are we having the same type of problem with Milwaukee County residents who just don't want to pay when it comes to disc golf and regular golf and dog parks? at the...
I couldn't tell you for sure if that's the case. All I could tell you is our process, that when we're there, we will address every individual. We will oftentimes make a lot of connections because we are there quite often, and we'll get information sometimes that way, like, hey, that person didn't pay. So then we'll go and try and address that. But I can't compare probably from transit to what we do in fee compliance in the parks.
All right. Would you say, in terms of regular golf, I mean, what percentage of the time do you come up to people who just haven't paid?
Are you talking about like golf as in far as?
Golf and disc golf. Like right now we have a
disc golf. I couldn't really give you a number of how many, but if I were to guess, less than 10%.
Really? So there really is tremendous compliance among golfers to just pay they'll just pay it.
I believe so, and I think that attributes to our staff and making those connections when we're over there and patrolling and just kind of talking and getting a lot of information.
Wow. Sounds like transit could be following your advice. You guys you're doing a great job. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, maybe one last question on e-bikes and compliance. And I've spoken to Director Smith about this too. One of the big concerns out there are big e-bikes racing down Oakleaf Trail, scaring pedestrians. I've heard this loud and clear on my campaign that just during collection of nomination papers, I cannot tell you how many people told me about these big bikes. I mean, are you involved with that at all, or on Oakleaf Trail and on bicycle speeds and stuff, or is that just not an area that you guys go into?
It's really not an area that we're involved with. However, we do patrol the Oakleaf Trail quite often on our own bikes as well that we utilize. But as far as the e-bikes, I know that's kind of a loaded kind of thing. I wouldn't want to venture any information.
So you guys aren't out there looking at these bikers and saying, stop?
I mean, if we see something where we feel it's unsafe, we'll try to address it. Okay. But if somebody's going 15 miles per hour and we're walking the trail, it'll just be hard to address that kind of safety issue.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Any other comments from committee members or non-committee members? All right. Well, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
the floor is yours, Supervisor Cox-Jones.
Well, thank you. I got my video working too. I just wanted to share with Todd that the way that you described the enjoyment about the work that not only that your team displays, but how passionate you talked about it during your presentation. It's rare that we find leadership to that magnitude, and it's also reflected in their work when I see them out in the community. And so I just wanted to give you your accolades and the team's accolades for being engaged, being proactive, and being attentive, and helping out wherever it's needed. So I just wanted to share that with you based off of my observation when I see them out in the community. So thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, Supervisor.
Thank you, Supervisor Cox-Jones. I think on behalf of the rest of the committee, I'm sure we all feel the same way. So thank you for your presentation today and the work you're doing.
Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
All right, sounds good. That was information, and then, we see something. Supervisor Martin.
Special privilege, I need to step away for a few moments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of course. Item number 10 looks like a hot issue here.
Item 10, an action report providing an update on the status of the McGovern Senior Center and requesting $100,000 from Org Unit 194-1945, appropriation for contingencies, fund planning, design, and cost estimating expenses by the Department of Administrative Services Facilities Management Division as they work with the Department of Health and Human Services for a long-term senior center solution on the northwest side of Milwaukee. This item has also been referred to the Committee on Health Equity, Human Needs, and Strategic Planning for informational purposes only per Wisconsin state statutes, and has also been referred to the Committee on Finance.
Thank you very much, Ms. Evans. Is that your last name anymore, or has it been changed? I heard.
Lord Birdie told me something too.
There's been a message that's been passing around this committee now. I heard congratulations is in order. What is your official last name now? Yes, congratulations on behalf of committee members. Yes. Congratulations on your wedding this weekend, and I have to tell you, you look beautiful in this white dress. So, congratulations. All right. The floor is yours now.
Chair, Supervisors, thank you. Aaron Hertzberg. I'm the Director of Administrative Services here at Milwaukee County with colleagues presenting on the McGovern project. On the staff side, can we also extend our congratulations to the clerk? And if it pleases the committee, I've got a presentation I can walk you through.
Please.
While we're bringing this up here, we're again talking about the McGovern Senior Center. And, we've had a long road in getting here, several reports already. Today we want to update you and prepare you with a full understanding of the conditions of the facility itself, some alternatives that we've looked at, and our recommendation for where we should head with that. So again, we'll give you that overview. We'll talk through all these alternatives. We want to paint a picture a little bit more in depth about the MKE Hub facility, what played a great role in helping to drive forward with what our eventual conclusions of that alternative analysis are, and provide that opportunity for some questions as we ask for your support today in moving forward with a long-term solution. So again, we've talked at length about this, right? In the conversations about McGovern and senior centers in general, the condition reports, the Young at Heart report from the Wisconsin Policy Forum, that picture for that concept of reimagining senior centers and MKE hubs, lots and lots of discussion around this. A couple things I want you to keep in mind. We did talk last summer about an alternative for McGovern that ultimately didn't move forward. A lot of mixed opinions about that. But we've now been left after these floods with a very serious condition. We've got to determine where to go forward. Also, keep in mind that in November we talked about facility conditions across the system. We're going to lean in and talk a little bit more about that again today. So let's talk about the existing conditions of McGovern. McGovern itself was originally built more than 50 years ago as a park pavilion, not as a senior center, right? It was adapted later to accommodate that use. When we talked previously about all of our senior centers, and we want to contextualize in the context of all 5 of those county-run senior centers. Again, more than 50 years old. It's the smallest of our senior centers in its space. The actual programming space in the building is closer to 9,000 square feet. Again, not originally built as a senior center, later converted to it. And so we think it's very difficult to adapt the facility as it currently exists, and probably unrealistic to meet that full vision for an MKE hub. So let's talk about the flooding that occurred there, right? We're all very familiar with the idea of the major flooding that occurred in August. We shut the facility down. As we were cleaning out the building, we found significant mold throughout the facility. There were some questions about, well, can't you get in there and clean up the mold? And we said, yeah, but we're very fearful this water is going to come back. And I think the engineering report that has come back and is shared as a copy as an attachment to this report demonstrates that there are significant issues that need to be addressed to ensure we do not have future water penetration into the building. We've had 3 major incidents of water in the basement over the last 5 years, including the very significant event this last August. I showed that overview picture of McGovern on that last slide, and one of the challenges we found in the construction of this building is that all the water that comes off the roof of the facility actually drains into the building through the pipes that are pictured here. And what we found was that there's significant leaking in those pipes that's actually bringing water from the roof of the building into the facility and helping to add to that issue that we have of flooding. And with the amount of flooding that has occurred, we started to see damage, right? You can see on the left side there, water penetration through walls, next to utilities, electrical equipment, not a safe environment. You can see some of the rusting that's occurred along with some of the standing water. When we're bringing water into the building, there's leakage in that pipe. that then penetrates and sits in that basement and creates that regular issue that we've been having here. On the upper left there, you can see that's part of the hot water system. Use some of the heating and cooling system, and you can see how the bottoms of all of that is starting to rust out as we continue to have this water penetration into the building. There are also some other exterior issues that we assessed. There's some, modest roof repairs that need to be accomplished. There's peeling paint. There's gaps and mortar that needs to be fixed. Some window issues and things like that. So the cleanup effort is beyond just cleaning up the mold. It's also making sure that we care for the building in a way that we don't have water penetration back in, and we're not doing this all over again. We've talked about this extensively at our community meetings, education of the public. We're seeing more and more of these water-related events. As we continue to see climate change, we should expect that we're going to continue to see that more frequently, heavy penetrating rains into our facilities, making it more and more challenging to address. So when we go into the actual engineering report, and I'm not going to go into deep in the weeds on all of it, but what we tried to look at was a holistic assessment of what needs to be done to clean up the facility and address the primary concerns related to water. So in repair option 1, we're repairing those pipes. Like I said, all that water comes off the roof of the building into the interior of the building. We could simply repair those pipes and make sure those are fixed, do the exterior work that needs to be done to prevent water penetration into the building, and clean it up. It's about $900,000. Repair option 2, which is what, if we're going to move forward with a repair option, we would recommend, is $1.9 million. That's taking that pipe infrastructure from that's currently in the building outside, right? Never a good idea to think about bringing water into the building. Ideally, we would have gutter systems that drain to the exterior of the building rather than coming into the building and then draining out. We'd like to keep it all on the outside of the building. So again, if we're going to move forward with a repair recommendation, we would be looking at recommendation 2. We talked in November about our 5-year capital plan for McGovern and all of our other senior centers. Some of the work that we're proposing to do as part of this would address some of the things that were outlined in the 5-year capital plan. So the number you're seeing here is actually a little lower than what was included in previous reports at $1.86 million in that 5-year capital plan. So in essence, if there was a commitment or a decision was made to invest in the facility to repair it, we'd be looking at either $900,000 or $1.9 million this year. And additionally, over the next 5 years, when we make that capital investment, we want to make a commitment to the building. It doesn't make sense to make that investment and then not continue to invest in the facility. So our recommendation is to acknowledge the need that you've got to make repairs both now and would need to continue to commit to the life of that building going forward. So if you consider that over a 5-year period, if there was a decision to invest in the building, you'd be looking at either $2.7 or $3.7 million over the next 5 years. Some of that is immediate need and some is continued commitment that would need to occur. A couple things I want to highlight and flag. You see the asterisk there. This doesn't address any programming deficiencies, right? From a service user perspective, we're creating a condition where the building can be open. We're not making any investments that actually benefit the citizens that we're providing services for. We're not upgrading the facility. We're not creating more space. We're not working toward that idea of Milwaukee County hubs. We're simply addressing the infrastructure that is needed to keep that facility open. So again, I want to bring you back to that report we talked about in November. Let the summary of that report be, we're not putting enough into our facilities to sustain them in the long term, right? So you can see over the course of the next 20 or so years, the gap between what we're investing and what probably needs to be invested in these facilities to retain them, to care for them the way they need to be cared for, that gap continues to grow and compound year after year after year. So we need to either think differently about how do we bring additional resources into these facilities, or how do we think differently about what our facilities are? How do we own less real estate, something we've been working on for a long time at Milwaukee County, or think about just simply reinvesting in facilities in a different way, building new partnerships. Our fear, again, is if we keep doing Band-Aid repairs, the challenges we face are going to continue to get worse and worse. So I'm going to turn it over to Celia Benton, our Director of Economic Development, to give you a quick overview of some of the other alternatives that have been considered.
As Director Hertzberg mentioned, we did want to work with DHHS on options. So we completed an initial analysis of short and long-term options for McGovern Senior Center. We used criteria that included availability, recommendations, density of older adults, and senior center suitability. I do want to note that the analysis does just include cost estimates, so further work would be required to confirm actual costs here. But when we looked at short-term options, really what we're thinking about here is something that could be ready if money was available within the next 6 months or so. And all options that we looked at, they would be shared spaces, so they would be shared with non-county program users and were not considered ideal for long-term tenancy. The spaces that we looked at included Embassy Center Milwaukee on North Sherman Boulevard. That has just about 19,000 square feet available and does include a kitchen and cafe space. It's near a grocery store and connection with a pantry that could offer some synergy with DHHS. We also looked at a Goodwill facility on North 91st Street. That is a larger complex at over 220,000 square feet. Right now, Goodwill is focused on the sale of this building, so we would either need to wait and see if leasing could become available or take on the burden of finding additional partners to fill up this space. In this space, there is an existing cafe kitchen and a section of the building with some classrooms that could be an option for programming. Then also on the short-term options, we looked at Elks Lodge number 46 on West Good Hope Road. This is over 41,000 square feet and is an existing center for senior center meal operations. But I want to note that space is extremely limited for programming beyond those senior meal operations. Certainly, of course, there may be other options that materialize if we continue to investigate further, but the idea is to start to get a sense of what estimated costs and options could be, again, using that criteria we noted. And so we thought that somewhere around the $350,000 would be needed for that capital investment and an estimate of around $165,000 a year in annual leasing costs. We also took a look at some long-term options. These are things that would not likely be available for until the 3 to 5 year window. The ones that we looked at included the Aldi that recently closed on North Hopkins. This is nearly adjacent to McGovern Park. It's a 17,000 square foot facility on 2.7 acres of land. In this scenario, what we would be looking at is partnering with a developer that would own the site and build affordable housing units on the site to offset the capital costs of the senior center facility. I do want to note that this Aldi is not yet on the market, but we understand there is additional interest on the site. Also, we looked at the MKU Rec Center at Browning Playfield on North 76th Street. This is part of a larger $54 million redevelopment project by MK Recreation that's expected to be completed sometime around the summer of 2027. The option here would be to try to co-locate with them. And these were the options that we found to be immediately available. Again, certainly if we're committed to a longer-term solution, we want to exhaust our options to the extent possible to find the best option for a senior center. And of course, these would only include sites outside of county parkland. When we thought about capital costs here, we used the estimate from file 25414, which looked at about $7 million. That was for the mixed-use proposal with Jewish Family Services. So we thought, okay, probably a $7 million investment from both county and fundraising efforts would be needed in this scenario. That does not include $100,000 to $150,000 that we would recommend for architectural services for conceptual design. And in this scenario, unknown operating expenses, it's just too soon in this analysis for that. Also want to note that in any option, both short or long-term outside of McGovern Park, we would want to consider funds for demolition of the building, which at the existing McGovern Senior Center, which right now includes cost estimates of $400,000 to $750,000 range, depending on the site condition required for park space. With that, I want to turn it over to Director Kenny to talk more about the MK Hub's vision.
Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. I'm Emily Kenny, Director of Strategic Initiatives and Transformation with the Department of Health and Human Services. And we wanted to include in here what the vision for the MKE Hubs and that MKE Hubs report that the Commission on Aging put together over a year and a half ago now, because we are so focused on buildings, and that's important. These things have to take place somewhere, but I don't want us to forget that the reason that we have the senior center buildings is to provide senior programming. And really our call as DHHS from the Commission on Aging is to figure out how we can bring that vision around how we provide services to our older adults to life. And so focusing on the building is important, but remembering why we're doing it and to what end is equally important. So just a reminder, we've got an aging population, more and more people, we're having more and more older adults, and we have decline in participation in social activities outside of our homes. And because of that, we're seeing isolation rise among older adults. Senior centers can provide a solution to that and can be kind of a tool for equity, can be an opportunity for providing that social and cultural belonging and bringing together within neighborhoods, even when people might not be able to pay for, a club that some of us, might belong to a club that we can pay for. Senior centers provide that and the activities at no cost. I included slides around what our population looks like in Milwaukee County. This is not news to anybody, but looking at the top middle, our African American or Black population is concentrated in the area that McGovern Park and McGovern Senior Center currently serves. And if we pair that also with our population trends, we'll see that in general, people being the number of people that are over 65. Again, if you look at the one on the right, in that kind of white clear area, that's where McGovern serves. There are fewer people that are aging, and that is not because people are moving out. It's because if we overlay that with the life expectancy on the left, people aren't living as long in that same area. So we have a need to invest in the area around McGovern, where McGovern Senior Center is in that neighborhood, because we need to give resources to people so that they're able to live long and healthy lives. The Hub's vision is to make programming accessible, available, attractive so that people come to it, unbounded and sustainable, and really focused on these attributes. That MKE Hub's report focuses on making a place that is welcoming, where people can socialize easily. Food is important, making sure that there's an opportunity for cafe-style food. Right now, we have kind of trays of food, but the Hub's vision really focuses on having plenty of choice in a cafe-style. Space for physical fitness, space for wellness, both mental and physical, connection to supports, learning, and that report focuses on technology, creativity and having a maker space, and then having evening entertainment options. So not only till 4 p.m. if people would like to engage in something in the evening, having that available. So really the Hub's report focuses on having a community space for older adults where people are able to come and be part of something. I get the pleasure of being with the Senior Center Committee, and we go once a month, and people really there talk about how can we make sure that this is a space where people find community, create community, and lead within senior centers in all of these different areas. So our challenge, the challenge to DHHS is not only maintaining what we've got, but really thinking about how do we enhance this concept of senior centers to make that MKE Hub's vision come to life. Some of that is through our programming and partnerships, but some of it is in kind of the physical space that we occupy. And that space doesn't necessarily need to be owned or managed by Milwaukee County. Currently, we do contract with other spaces that are not owned by Milwaukee County for senior center programming and activities. And that is, that is an option to be able to make sure that we are reaching the community and bringing that vision to life. Doesn't necessarily have to be inside one building. But that is our challenge, and that is what we are trying to achieve. There's an opportunity here with McGovern to invest in that neighborhood and also make sure that we can enhance or bring to life that MKE Hub's vision. I'll pass it back to Director Hertzberg.
Thank you. And I want to touch on that because, there was something really profound that was stated there, right? Milwaukee County has a vision for becoming the healthiest county by achieving racial equity. And what Director Kinney went through there is really, this is the heart of some of that, right? When we see those health disparities and we see different outcomes for different populations in our community, we recognize that in and around this McGovern area, is a high area of need where there is value in providing services. And so, one big takeaway from all of this is that we see it as incredibly important that we find opportunities to invest in areas of need within our community, and those graphics that were shared help to demonstrate why investment in this area is important. It's something we've heard from seniors, and I think we've confirmed through data. So let's jump through and sort of talk about the considerations, right? So we really see it as sort of three options that came before us. One is invest in McGovern. And again, we're making the recommendation that if we were to invest in McGovern, we want to do it and do it the right way, which is roughly 1.9 million on the front side, get it clean, get the infrastructure corrected. That also bakes us into a longer-term commitment. We don't want to put 1.9 million into a building that we don't intend to continue to invest in. So we would have to continue to do investment over the next 5 years and beyond. That is one of the shorter options for providing services. The short-term solution is to address immediate needs in the area. Some of those short-term alternatives that Director Benton talked out here, I'll be honest and frank about it. None of those solutions are great solutions. There are programming challenges, there are operational challenges in those spaces that become very difficult from a staffing level, from a program operations level to make things work and to work well. We're carrying a fair amount of build-out costs that we're sinking as sunk cost in. We don't see any of the options we evaluated as potential long-term solutions. So we're sinking in upfront costs. We're operating through ongoing lease costs for about 3 to 5 years is we think is realistic. I will say that's our fastest option likely to pursue to get some services back in play. What we're recommending is a long-term solution, and we're saying, look, if we're going to really commit and provide services in this community where we know they are well needed, we should do this, and we should do it the right way. Our request to you as part of this file, and which will eventually go to Finance Committee, is to seek $100,000 to help aid our effort for long-term planning, right? We've got some rough concept plans that were put together as part of the file that was proposed last year with Jewish Family Services. We've got some ideas. We did that a little bit on the cheap. We think it's worth resourcing that a little bit so we can bring folks to the table to help us really with that design, estimating, and to find that right partnership. We have a rough idea of what something like that might cost. We think it's in that ballpark of about $7 million. I'll note that with the prior proposal from the summer with JFS, it was $2 million from a federal grant. We were looking at partnerships around bringing the other $5 million to the table through charitable contributions and private fundraising and things like that. So that $7 million number that we're talking about here doesn't necessarily have to all fall on the backs of Milwaukee County and our budget ourselves. The solution here is to give us some time and space and collectively to make a commitment to say we want to pursue a long-term solution here. We want to put some relatively small resources into that for now while we explore that landscape. We've been approached by some entities out there that have expressed some interest. We need some resources to run to ground what those alternatives could look like. We think the timeline of about 3 to 5 years to test the marketplace, to explore potential partnership opportunities with public and private sector individuals, and to come back to you with a fully baked plan outside of a park space and what that could look like for a collaborative path forward somewhere in the vicinity of the northwest side, generally in the territory of McGovern. At this stage, we're not formally defining any boundaries. We want to stay flexible to be able to find the right opportunity to move forward. I want to be clear that if we're going to pursue that direction, and there's affirmative action from the board to move us in that direction, Department of Administrative Services would start working closely with the Parks Department to try to understand what happens with the existing McGovern building. Clearly, there are a lot of facility issues there. We don't think it's a long-term viable building, particularly as a senior center. We would likely be looking at deconstruction of that building and refinishing that space in an appropriate nature driven by the Parks Department. But just to be clear, if we're looking at a long-term solution, we also need to think about what's happening with the existing facility. There are some rough estimates in the report about what that would take, somewhere likely in the $400,000 to $700,000 range. We'll have to get in the weeds with Parks about that. We'll have to do some investigation to figure out what deconstruction looks like and what the finishing grade looks like is what the big swing on that cost total is, right? Are we just resurfacing as grasslands? Is there some sort of a larger picnic area or something like that? We'd like to work with the Parks Department to come back with a proposal on that side of it. So again, the recommendation for that long-term solution is let's commit to a long-term vision. Let's give some time, space for collaboration, communication, to work with the Commission on Aging, to work with the Board of Supervisors, to work with private and other public sector partners who may be interested in coming together with us to pursue that option. So in conclusion, again, the request is to say, let's jump in this all together. Let's commit some modest resources from contingency, that $100,000 to support planning, design, and cost estimating. Let's acknowledge the impacts of what that is. Let's tell the community what our plan is, and let's get to work building the right partnerships to move this vision from MKE hubs somewhere on the northwest side of Milwaukee forward. And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Members of the committee? Supervisor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for the presentation. One additional property that came up during a conversation when I was knocking on doors was at the Midtown Center. There is an old Walmart space that has been vacant for a number of years. And if we could consider adding that to the list of potential sites to put this MKE hub.
Chair, Supervisors, yes, that's one of many opportunities we'd like to look at. I think that does still fit in that category of a long-term solution. It would take us a fair amount of time to figure out what access to the property would look like, whether that's a lease or ownership, what potential collaboration would exist, build out all those sorts of things. And I think that's one of many possibilities that we would look to run down if the resources are allocated to help us support that direction, and if that's the direction that the board would like to move with us.
That's great, because one of the things that I was thinking of that being a great location, is on not one, not two, not three, but 4 bus lines. And it would serve that community very well. And I don't like to continue to go down the if I woulda, couldas, and shouldas, but I really do wish that that would have been the site instead of the site at the McGovern Park. And we could have taken that vote and got to a yes. And we would not be in this situation of not having a property identified. But thank you all for your work and your efforts and continuing to work with the community in regards to getting a center on that northwest side. and hopefully we'll see more of the announcements for community engagement that's coming up in the next few weeks. Thank you.
Chair, Supervisor, if I could just add quickly, I should have mentioned it, we have two community listening sessions coming up, March 12th and March 13th. The 12th is in the late afternoon, I believe it's at 5 o'clock, and the 13th, Friday the 13th, I believe is at 12:30. Both at Washington Park Senior Center. We would invite members of the public to join us at either of those.
Supervisor Martinez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. How much money is in the contingency account right now? Do we know?
No. Is there anybody who can answer that question for us?
Yeah, that's what I was.
We don't have anybody at this time with we can get that amount for you, but we don't have it right now.
Okay. I just wanted to know because this 100,000 would be coming from contingency, correct?
Correct.
Correct. I'll highlight, I believe the report is informational in front of the Parks Committee and would be a action item in front of the Finance Committee. We can certainly give you that information before the Finance Committee and an actual vote statement.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, yeah, this is, okay, sorry. All right, thank you.
All right. Supervisor Martin.
Thank you. I was remiss and then I lost the thought again. I should write things down. If it comes back to me, I'll raise my hand again. Thank you.
Of course, Supervisor. Other members of the committee? Supervisor O'Connor?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. So going back to the vision supplied by the Milwaukee Hubs report, can you talk a little bit about where that is being paired with sort of financially viable path as well? I think we've had previous conversations, such as recommendations made from the Young at Heart report that talk about the partnerships, and you've alluded to some of those, even a structure that's sort of like friends of senior centers. You know, we heard earlier in the meeting about significant capital campaigns being done in conjunction with community. So I guess if you could talk about that, and then any other points of intersection with the major long-term strategic planning, the future state project that the county is undergoing at this time, and where senior centers factor into that. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Okay, yeah. I see Dan joining us here, and I'll be a little careful, but I'll jump into it anyways after talking to several of the members of the Commission on Aging and the report that they've put together. I think the way we've accepted that report and understood that report is it's really painting the vision, right? It's about, hey, if we can really build the senior center environments that we'd ideally like to build, this is what it looks like. I think there's a sort of cynical way to accept that information is to say, boy, how is Milwaukee County ever going to achieve that with our budgets, right? The optimist in me looks at that report and says, great, we have a vision, right? Is there buy-in from our community about this is the way that we want to go? And when I say community and when I say we, I don't just mean Milwaukee County. I think oftentimes when you are working with the seniors in the spaces, when you're working with the potential partners on the outside, someone has to bring forth that vision and say, this is our ideal. This is what we want to accomplish. We have ongoing conversations with the Commission on Aging, and especially with our friends from DHHS, and trying to figure out what can Milwaukee County accomplish in some of our spaces. I would throw out the example of the Clinton Rose Senior Center. We're currently investing about $4 million that we were able to receive through a state ARPA grant to make major investments in that facility. It's bringing us much closer to that idea of an MKE hub. Without a vision of what we were trying to accomplish in this space, I don't know that we would have been successful in that grant effort, right? And so it's a great example that sometimes you don't know what you're creating the vision for, or how the partners will come together, where the resources will come for, but I think it does help in painting a picture to rally others to come and see what we see, which is the value of our senior centers, the programming that's offered. We have an understanding of what the value of the various aspects of programming are. and hopefully that can be a rallying cry to bring others around the table with us. So that's sort of the way I sort of see it on the facilities side. I think in the context of the larger future state project, there's a lot in there about thinking about how we provide services to our community, right? And I think, the intention of that document, as I understand it, is a path to outline some recommendations that help aid in achieving that vision that we've agreed on as a community. And I think I'd be hard pressed to find somebody who says that when you look at the data around senior services and the value of it, when you look at the needs assessment, particularly on the northwest side of Milwaukee, that is one of our prime zones where the layers match up, right? I mean, it's a jarring statistic to look at when you look at the life expectancy in certain sections of our community. And to know that senior services can be one of those important aspects in helping to extend and sustain not just life, but quality of life, those are pretty dramatic and profound data points that we as a community need to understand. And so I think when you look at those recommendations, is there a specific recommendation I would attach it to? Maybe not necessarily, but I do think it fits in the context of the larger vision for future state, for Milwaukee County's vision to become the healthiest county in Wisconsin. I hope that answers the question.
Questions, other questions, concerns? Supervisor Martin.
Thank you. When you looked at this proposal and what you're proposing now, was there an environmental impact study done for the neighborhood, not the building, the neighborhood? Because I'm concerned about noise, lighting, traffic, litter, and all pollution. And I'm really want to get to the point of understanding and knowing, and for the community to know, and I guess I'd get this information from OEM, paramedic response in that district for upper respiratory issues, lupus, D1 and D2, type 1 and type 2 diabetes.
I got it.
I know you got it. Diabetes and other medical issues. That is a major concern when we're looking at developing in areas. As you've mentioned, that there are hot spots there. And that is the reason why the community raised up and said they did not want to have those additional apartments put on top of the facility because of those issues and concerns, the environmental impact that this could potentially have. So I want to know if there was an environmental impact study done on the area and not just the building. We know that that building is sick. We know that. But what about the area? Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, Supervisors, it's a great question, and the answer is no, we've not done that, beyond. We've really been looking at, look, we've got an existing building here, what would it look like to continue services there? I do think you bring up some really important points, right? Bus line access, health, all the things about lighting and noise and all that other kind of stuff. I think our commitment is, look, if we're going to move forward on this, we acknowledge that doing it outside the park is the direction that we've gotten feedback to go, and I think we've accepted that feedback and would go in that direction. And, to answer the question more deeply, I think the environmental assessment depends heavily on where we think the ideal site is. Right? If you were to talk about a site at Midtown Center, you might think differently about lighting and noise than you would if it was closer to a residential neighborhood, right? And we've got a couple of ideas. Some of those are active projects. The Aldi's is a former commercial site that has now been vacated. So the conditions of some of these are relative to what that immediate neighborhood is to some extent. And so I think it's a conversation, great questions that need to be on the table as we pursue alternatives in that long-term portfolio. And so I think the assessment of that environment would be part of that conversation.
Other members of the committee? Supervisor Cox-Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Hexberg, can you please provide those dates of the listening session at Washington Senior Center, please? Or is there an announcement or some sort of media?
Yeah, Thursday the 12th, March 12th, and Friday, March 13th. And we have a flyer that has been passed around in the community. We'll share it with the committee and ask for it to be amended to the file, so it's open and available for everyone to access.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Other members of the committee? All right. Yeah, I sat through this whole talk, and I have to tell you, I'm going to rain on your parade. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we're going to be spending money like this on a program that's dead. McGovern Senior Center is dead. It is over with. We can't build a new building there. Even the thought of putting all this process to put money into this thing, it's designed wrong. It's going to flood. It's going to have to be torn down or completely reconstructed at a cost of $7 million. We could build a mansion for $7 million. There's not a single home in the entire Milwaukee County it sells for $7 million. To even propose this thing is outrageous. I mean, I think it's way off the top. I understand seniors have needs. Absolutely, we have to find help for them, but not there. There was an opportunity. It was over with. When the vote came in this committee, this board, we voted it down. They did not want to have senior housing there. This was the perfect future. And then a few weeks later, on cue, the rains came down. There was a flood. Almost the Lord intervened on behalf here to say, no, close the place down. So I think it's done with. Now, new proposals, sure. I mean, I think the proposal that Supervisor Martin had by going to Midtown is a fantastic idea. I mean, I think that we have to look at the buildings. I mean, the bus lines, we can get people there. But right now, bus lines are hurting. Come this March 8th, I think it's Saturday, we're losing transit. We're losing more cuts are going to be made. And we're supposed to come up with Taj Mahal for $7 million for a specific senior center? It's wrong. It's just absolutely wrong. So I'm not in favor of this $100,000. I think we have to be point blank clear that McGovern is closed for good. The residents there are already going elsewhere. They're going somewhere else. They're getting their needs met somewhere else. So if we're not opening anything for 3 to 5 years, how many of those residents are even left? Both alive and even going somewhere else. They're going places elsewhere. So we're trying to fix a problem that's already been solved. It's neglect solves the problem. If we don't have the money, we made decisions were made, the place should be closed down, boarded up, and done with. To spend more money on trying to find pipes and mold and all this. How much money was spent on all these investigations on looking at this building?
So I have to get the number from staff. I want to say somewhere in the tens of thousands of dollar range to do the assessments.
We wasted that money. Tens of thousands of dollars. We knew the building was falling apart. I think some points we have to just call it like it is. We were going to tear the building down and to spend tens of thousands of dollars more when we knew there was a flood. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that. I think, we had a sense all along, and we were transparent and upfront about the challenges we saw in that building. That said, I'm not working on my home. I owe it to the public to provide resources and information and clarity. And then let's remember that when those floods happened, there were accusations from members of the public that we had intentionally done something as retribution or something like that. There were, concerns and accusations amongst members of the public. And so as a matter of transparency and clarity, we felt it was critical, and we absorbed those costs within our budget to make sure that we could provide data and information to the public to be very clear about the conditions of the facility and what we were working with. We asked the City of Milwaukee Health Department to come through the building with us to provide assessment and to join us at listening sessions that the supervisor of the district, Martin, helped organize for us. And I agree. I think we were asked that question. We asked that question of ourselves, and I said, and I stand by this, we owe it to the community to provide a full slate of information. We don't get to go off our guts often. We don't get to go off our feelings. We have to do our research. even if we're making a decision to not make an investment, we have to be able to show our homework and prove to the community that we have not come to that because of anybody's feelings. We're a data-driven organization, and we're going to drive forward with that. I want to be clear also that our recommendation is not to continue to invest in the McGovern Senior Center. Our recommendation is to look at alternative locations, whether that be the one that Supervisor of the District mentioned or other alternatives that could come forward. We agree it is not worth continuing to invest in McGovern.
So you're saying point blank, I didn't hear this before, you're saying close the McGovern Senior Building?
Correct. As part of my presentation, I thought I was clear in saying our recommendation, our request is for $100,000 to help us look at alternative sites with potential alternative partners, to have conversations, both public and private sector, to see if there are other partners who are willing to come to the table with us. Recall that when we made the proposal as part of file 25414, we had a nonprofit partner at the table with us. Our ideal going forward would be a new facility in a different location, ideally in partnership with other entities that help defray the costs on Milwaukee County. The rough number of $7 million is the same number that was part of the JFS proposal. Again, of that 7 at that time, $2 million was from a federal earmark, $5 million we were in a position to collaborate with JFS on bringing in outside resources. Our ideal is that we would be able to find a similar partnership going forward and similar resources to help mitigate the amount of cost that falls specifically on Milwaukee County. But I don't have that solution today. Our goal in getting that $100,000 is to build that vision, scan the marketplace for who those potential partners could be. We've already had a few who've reached out to us that we'd like to consider and run to ground. We need some resources to do that. Give us about 3 to 5 years, and we think within that time frame we can be back with a proposal. I agree with you that seniors are already finding some other facilities. New seniors will come. We still have high needs within that area. So this is really a investment in continuing to look for those partnerships and to find an alternative going forward. I just want to be clear about that.
But I think one thing that has to be very clear and very transparent is the administration at this time is calling for the closure of the McGovern Senior Center building for the future. Complete closure at this time.
That is, and I believe I said that as part of the report. And just to clarify,
okay,
if we're making a commitment to move in that direction, we will immediately start engaging with the Parks Department on what deconstruction of the McGovern facility looks like. There's an estimated cost that's listed in the report, somewhere in the range of $400,000 to $700,000. Part of that depends on the finishing condition of what that space ends up looking like. It's a rough estimate. If there are grander visions of what happens to that space, obviously that number could go up. But our rough estimate on deconstruction and either grass surfacing or picnic area or something on the modest scale would be part of that. But what we're looking for from the board and the Finance Committee and then the full board is a commitment to move towards that long-term vision, to start scanning for partners, acknowledging that that means we are tearing down the existing McGovern Senior Center.
All right. Supervisor Taylor.
So, no surprise again, I'm going to vote no on this. When you say 3 to 5 years, okay, this doesn't need to be here now. I think this should come through the normal budget process. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. I think, doing it in this manner of going into contingency, to me, in a way, is bailing out a poor decision by the county board. We actually had a solution. We had a location. We had a building. The neighbors were opposed to it. We understand that. Actions have consequences. Our votes, some of the votes made by the prevailing side, which was to kill that project, they were listening to the residents, and the supervisor of the district did her job, listening to the residents, and the residents asked for this not to move forward, the McGovern project not to move forward. Now, no one envisioned a flood. No one knew what was going to happen next, okay? But things happen. Decisions have consequences, and the consequences were we weren't moving forward with a really worthwhile project that could have had a brand new senior center in the same location. And that didn't work. And then to spend money because, out of your budget because there was misinformation and conspiracy theories, I'm sorry, like, at some point you say, that isn't happening, we're not wasting tax dollars. But we wasted tax dollars to prove something that we knew. You already came to us with a complete breakdown of what that building needed, what it needed. And then you have a flood, which there's going to be an additional cost no matter what, regardless of whether it was mold or mildew, but yet we had to spend the money to push aside all the false narratives being spread by a lot of the people in the area that killed the project. But now we want our building. So I would support going back to either JFS or other potential entities to revisit that proposal with a little more time. Remember, one of my colleagues always needs more time. If they would have had a little more time, maybe they could have got to there, because there maybe need to be more interactions with the neighbors. Now that something is gone, maybe they'd be more open to taking another look with a little more time. And the reason why I'm not going to spend this $100,000 or vote for this $100,000 is when you say 3 to 5 years, what's the rush? Put it through the budget. When that project failed and this happened, it needs to get in line with every other deferred maintenance project out there. Every supervisor here has something that's a higher priority than this, that's been waiting longer than this. And that had a solution, and it had a residential housing, which is in need in this community, and a new senior center. So I'm going to vote against it. Simply bring it in the budget. This is not an emergency, okay? And allow it to be balanced against everything else. Because 3 to 5 years, that's a long ways away. And I wouldn't want to spend money when it is March and we have what's the number, the projected deficit for, I think I saw something like 40 to 60 million. Is that what it is? Is that what it is, 40 to 60 million? So like, and I think Supervisor Miguel Martinez asked how much. Well, we started with $5 million. We've probably tapped into it for a couple small things, small items. So I guarantee, or I would probably bet money, guarantee money, that's over $4.5 million. But there's a lot of 2026 left. Okay, and this is not the way to do this. This is, like, to me, like I said, a reaction, and frankly, it's a bailout for a poor decision by this body, and we shouldn't be rewarded.
Supervisor Martin.
Hopefully this will be my last comment. I will ask that my fellow supervisors vote yes that are on the Finance Committee, and then it comes before the county board, that we would vote yes to approve the $100,000 so that we can move forward with a very important population. Our seniors paid their dues, and they pay their taxes in Milwaukee County. And just to let you know, the majority of the folks that use the center are extremely active. They're not 80 years old. These folks are active, and they do deserve a second look, and they were told multiple times that if you want me to vote for no for this project, you're not going to be able to come back and say, oops, we want to reconsider. We knew that once that decision was made, McGovern was a done deal, but that is not to say that we can't look at alternate sites. The Aldi site would be a good site. It's directly across the street from the facility that's currently there. But I would hope that we would not be so punitive in what we say and do, because there are other things that come up that I would love to say no to, but I think of the folks that are being impacted the most. The goal is always to add value to the lives of our residents and visitors in Milwaukee County. And to say, I just almost felt like my mom was smacking my hands when my colleague said, you had your opportunity. And I will admit, I said that at one of our budget meetings when one of the residents that want this McGovern Park deal, I reminded her back in May, I told you, if we vote this down, later on you cannot come and say you're investing on the south side, but not on the north side when we have an opportunity in front of us to vote for this project. Now they want buyer's remorse, but nevertheless, we want to move forward, and $100,000 in the grand scheme of things, it's not a heck of a lot of money. I see us spending money on other things that, like I said, I'd rather we not spend it. So I would hope that our finance department will vote yes, and then that it goes to the full board, and that we do take the $100,000 to look at and start working towards a plan, a viable plan to provide seniors. I have a senior in my district that's 108 years old.
Congratulations.
I thought that was a was an issue, that's not true, but you knock on the door, and this handsome, strong Navy gentleman comes to the door, and his lovely wife is still there with him, and she's 111 years old.
Wow.
And I think we need to do a news story on them.
Absolutely.
And they look better than most of us in this room. And they do not use walkers. They are very good. So I don't know if they're going to be 123 by the time this thing comes to fruition, but I wouldn't bet against them at this point. But yeah, so I encourage my colleagues to search your heart, know that we have the task in front of us, and that we're all tasked with the same thing, is to add value to the seniors, to the residents of Milwaukee County, and to say to our seniors, you do matter. We hear you and we see you, and we want to meet your needs just like the needs of others. Sometimes you just got to do a good thing because it feels good. And then sometimes you got to do a good thing because people are so deserving. These are retired law enforcement, school teachers, professors. Even if it is the lowest on the socio-economic realm, they still deserve humanity, and they still deserve to have their needs met. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Martin. Supervisor Cogs-Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to state for the record that regarding the McGovern Park item that's before us, I have mixed feelings about it. I do feel the same frustration that you expressed, Chairman, in regards to that we had an opportunity before us that would have provided those who have paved the way a nice living facility with a mixed-use area downstairs on the first floor that could have continued the same agenda that the current McGovern Senior Park participants were doing. So I just wanted to share that, but I also wanted to reflect on the data that was provided of the number of our seniors that live in that area of McGovern Park. That information was alarming, because if that is a facility that keeps that heartbeat and that activity for them, then I feel as though that there should be something done. I like the options that was presented as the alternative locations, but the cost factor alone, was something that also has me a bit torn. So I just wanted to share that for the record, that I do believe that there has to be something done, that we should do something, and seeing how those partnerships and collaborations can work out. If that 100,000 is the amount that is only needed, it could be a possibility, but kind of like what Chairman Wasserman mentioned, that we've spent $10,000 already just in the study, when those dollars could have been towards the $100,000 that we're asking from contingency. So I just wanted to share that, Chairman. Thank you so much, and I yield back.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Cogs-Jones. I don't have anyone else hands up. One thing I do want a lesson to be learned from this thing is to spend money to try to prove when some people have like conspiracy theories. it's throwing money down the drain. It's absolutely a waste. I mean, we have vaccine doubters in this country. We have people who believe Barack Obama was not an American citizen. And they still, guess what? He was still president for 8 years. Even the person who most led it said he was born in Hawaii. There's still people who we're never going to get these conspiracy people, prove them, that they're wrong. Because they know that they think they're right. So spending money, when you could look downstairs and somebody could go down and there's mold all over the place, and you knew the pipes are going in, the flood's there, take a few pictures. That's all here's what's out there. It's over with. Don't spend money like this. It's just a waste. That money could have been spent for the future. Exactly what Supervisor Cogs-Jones said. So exactly what Supervisor Martin, everyone on this whole committee. You can't spend money trying to
Disprove, but there's a phrase. There's a phrase.
I know, disprove. It's just something that should never have been done. No. And, I know, and I'm sure you didn't do it. You wanted to help people, and I understand helping people. But sometimes you can't lead a horse to water and make them drink. They refuse to do that. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I respect that. And I contextualize that that's the environment that we were in. I also want to be really clear. That isn't just about sort of proving conspiracy theorists wrong or anything like that. It's also about this body, right? I brought you 3 different alternatives today. I couldn't have answered the question without spending some money to figure out what this would look like if I didn't bring that information to you. And so if I came to you today and said, I don't think we should invest in McGovern, here's what short-term costs are, here what long-term costs are, invariably somebody on this body would be asking, how much would it cost to just keep McGovern open, right? And so I don't want to get lost in this idea about conspiracy theories. We are put in a position where we are expected to bring you data. And we want you to be in a position to make the most informed decisions. And sometimes it costs us a little bit of money, tens of thousands of dollars. I take that seriously. I absolutely do. The reality of the marketplace right now, to hire professionals and get them out to do a full building assessment to fully understand what this looks like. I also need to know that I'm confident if I was coming here today to ask you for $1.9 million, I need to know it's $1.9 million. I'm not, checking the weather to decide what that number is. I have to be clear and consistent with what that data is, because I also have been in that situation, and unfortunately, we've put you in positions before where we said, hey, we think it's going to cost X, and then we get into the project and say, oh boy, it's going to cost X plus. And nobody likes that. And so, I feel bad. I don't like spending taxpayer dollars any more than anybody else around here for things that don't move forward. I will say, maintaining credibility in government, empowering you to make well-informed decisions is always at our hearts and where we try to go. And, I didn't mean to get into a back and forth about how much we spent on all of this, but I think it's really important to have that on the record. We owe it to you, we owe it to the public at large to bring you data.
We appreciate it, but with common sense. So let's move on. This is information item. So we're done with item number 10 right now. We're going to move on to item 11, but we've been going for over 3 hours and 20 minutes.
There's a comment on this item.
You know what? You are correct. I do have a blue comment card. I appreciate it. Supervisor Martin, I have Kelsey. Denise, I should say the famous Denise Callaway, please come up forward and let's hear your thoughts on item number 10.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wasserman. It's either famous or infamous. I will let you all decide.
Famous.
I want to make clear that I'm a member of the Milwaukee County Commission on Aging. I am speaking as a member of the commission, not for the commission. Though the commission has had considerable conversation at the commission level and also through our senior center committee about McGovern. And just 2 quick points that I want to be able to make. It's probably going to be more than 2. The first is it's important to recognize that seniors are the largest growing population in Milwaukee County. we add new people every day, God willing. And there are 190,000 seniors who the Commission on Aging represents. I would like to say that I do support the request for $100,000 to move forward. And we'll be appearing at the Finance Committee making that request as well. There's one reason we need to, and I would refer folks back to the Milwaukee County population trends part that we saw in this presentation. Look at it. Look at where we see people have the shortest life expectancies. It is in the McGovern area. It is in the northwest side. With all due respect, there are people who can't wait a year for this to come around again, for us to begin the process of figuring out what a new senior center on the northwest side looks like. Every day at McGovern, there were people there who were getting their blood pressure taken through a partnership that we have with the American Heart Association. There is an incredible high level of hypertension in the African American community. And do you know what we found? There were people there finding out every day that they had high blood pressure, which shortens lifespan. There were people at McGovern who were getting nutrition information. There is a need for this facility to help people change these numbers. And it can't all be done through senior centers, but that is a place where we can bring together people who can help to make a difference. And so I'm asking that that supervisors on this committee consider supporting this request. It is an investment in the future of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Denise Callaway. Oh, Supervisor Cogs-Jones has her hand up, yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I wanted to ask to be excused for the remaining of the meeting, please.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you.
Can't hear you, Chair Wasserman.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Martinez. We're at the 3 hours and 23-minute mark right now. We've been sitting continuously. It's not healthy for us just to sit here. It's important for us to move around a little bit. Let's take a quick 5 minutes. Let's go to the bathroom, and let's go back, and then let's just go rapid fire. For information, for people who are going to speak on information only, if you could reduce I'm just telling you ahead of time, so if you reduce your presentation to less than 5 minutes, and to all the other presenters to less than 5 minutes, we'd like to move forward and we may have more questions for you, but hit the high points in your speech, in your talk, and we'll go from there. And like I said, 5 minutes, and let's get back by like 12:29. Let's start up.
I like it.
Let's move.
Goodies.
Yeah, and get some food too. And anybody who would like to have some little breakfast food, come on up.
It's not half day, it's dentist appointment, so a little bit early on. Yeah. I'm 1:32, so hopefully we will. Hopefully we'll wrap it up at 1. We've got the rest.
Order. Item first order of business is to call the roll. Can't forget that. This Ann, I'm saying it right, correct?
You got it, Mr. Chair. Supervisors, Taylor, District 17.
Here.
Martin. Present. Cogs Jones. Oh, excuse me.
Excuse.
For the remainder of the meeting.
Correct.
Martinez.
Here.
O'Connor. Here. Mr. Chairman.
Here.
There are 5 members present, 1 appearing virtually. We have a quorum.
Perfect. The next order of business is calling number 11 into session.
Item 11, an informational report on ongoing lease discussions with Easter Seals Southeast Wisconsin for Willow Way Grant and Underwood facilities. This item has also been referred to the Committee on Health Equity, Human Needs, and Strategic Planning, and is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Welcome. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Rami Peltz. I'm a leasing manager with Economic Development and Real Estate Services. I'm here with my colleagues from DAS, Parks, and DHHS to provide an informational update on the ongoing lease discussions with Easter Seals Southeast Wisconsin for the Willoway Grant and Willoway Underwood Recreation Centers. The Willoway facilities located in Grant Park in South Milwaukee and Underwood Park in Wauwatosa have long served as inclusive recreation centers for individuals and disabilities across Milwaukee County. These sites provide year-round programming, including seasonal recreation, respite camps, skill-building programs, and special events for children, transitioning young adults, and older adults. They are meaningful community assets. However, as previously reported, Milwaukee County is facing ongoing fiscal constraints. The projected 5-year capital needs for the Willoway facilities total approximately $4.8 million, and that excludes splash pads and playgrounds. In addition, annual operating costs average roughly $112,000. At the same time, demand for disability-focused programming continues to grow. Our goal is to align those two realities, preserving and expanding inclusive programming while reducing long-term capital and operating exposure. It's important to emphasize that this is not a change in mission. Easter Seals Southeast Wisconsin has partnered with Milwaukee County's Disability Division, Service Division at Willoway for more than a decade delivering inclusive recreation and respite programming. The potential lease builds on that existing relationship. Easter Seals Southeast Wisconsin is a nationally affiliated nonprofit organization with a long-term standing presence in Milwaukee County. Easter Seals provides comprehensive services for individuals with disabilities, including inclusive recreation, respite care, life skills development, and family support services. The potential lease under discussion would transition facility management responsibilities to Easter Seals under a long-term agreement, which we're discussing would be a 10-year lease, significantly reducing county capital and operational obligations while ensuring programming continuity. The purpose of these lease discussions is to align mission continuity with fiscal sustainability. If negotiations are successful, we will return to this committee with the final lease for review and authorization. Our shared objective across DAS, Parks, and DHHS is clear: to preserve the mission of Willow Ways while putting the county on a more sustainable financial path. We believe this partnership has the potential to accomplish both. If Director of Aging, Director Formanek, as well as Jenna Wampole, who's the president of Easter Seals, I don't know if she is on, are present, and the committee would like additional detail regarding programmatic impact on Easter Seals' mission and background, they are best positioned to provide that context. And thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Members of the committee? Questions, concerns? I think your presentation went so well that there are no questions. All right, I think, thank you very much for your presentation. We're done with item number 11. Let's move on to item number 12, which is an action item.
Item 12 from the Executive Director of Parks requesting authorization to retroactively submit and accept bridge infrastructure grants from the DNR.
Would you like to introduce yourself again?
Robert Singlop, Contracts Manager, Milwaukee County Parks. Online, I just want to give her a shout out. I won't ask her to talk, but Delaney Prashada, she's our contracts, works in the contracts team, but she's our grants coordinator, and she applied for this grant. But we are requesting authorization to retroactively submit a grant, part of the DNR's Recreational Trails Program, for 2 bridge infrastructure repairs, not to exceed $100,000 each. The 2 bridges, well, I guess technically there's 3. The replacement of the Oak Leaf Trail pedestrian bridge over the Root River near Highway 100 and Cold Spring Road. And then there would be 2 Menominee River Trail bridges within the Menominee River Parkway in Tosa. So this is, the RTP is a reimbursable grant that requires local match. The required 20% local match would be provided through previously approved parks capital funding. It's in the report, but the capital project number is WP 073901, which is the Parks Bridges repairs and replacements, and that was adopted in the 2023 capital improvement budget. This is a grant that we kind of apply for on a yearly basis. Maybe not yearly, but in the last 10 years, we've been given $382,901. The terms, why we're retroactively requesting this is the grant was due March 1st, yesterday, or Sunday. It kind of fell in between board meetings. We became aware of it beginning of January, which docs were already due. So that is why we are here to retroactively seek permission to apply and accept the funding if awarded.
All right. Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move to adopt.
Okay. There's been a motion to approve. Any further discussion? Real quickly, so Delaney, she's the one who came up with the grant, who came up with the proposal and wrote up the grant?
Yep.
And how much was the grant for? How much was this total?
The goal would be, if we get awarded the most, it would be $200,000 in total.
And how much has she gotten so far?
Well, we we just submitted the application, so we'll find out in the next couple months if we were awarded.
Good. I hope you get it.
Yeah, no, she's been instrumental, huge asset to our team, and as we look for creative funding and.
Compliments. Good. Let's call the roll.
On the motion by Supervisor O'Connor that item number 12 be recommended for adoption, Supervisor Taylor, District 17.
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Martinez?
Aye.
O'Connor? Aye. Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes, the motion prevails.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, number 13.
Item 13 from the Director, Architecture, Engineering, and Environmental Services Section, Department of Administrative Services, requesting authorization to apply for, accept, and administer 2027 Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection Support grants in the approximate amount of $75,000 to partially offset the salaries, training, travel, and office expenses of the Land Conservation Department.
Welcome. The floor is yours if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Tim Betzer. I'm the principal. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Tim Detzer. I am the principal environmental engineer at DAS and also the county conservationist. This grant that we're seeking approval for is available to all counties that have a land water resource management plan. There is no match required, and we've received the grant for 10 plus years.
That's great.
So it's typically around $75,000.
That's awesome. Supervisor O'Connor?
I'll move to approve.
There's a motion now on the floor to approve the grant request. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Nean, if you could like to call the roll.
On the motion by Supervisor O'Connor that item number 13 be recommended for adoption, Supervisor Taylor, District 17.
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Martinez?
Aye.
O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes, the motion prevails.
Thank you. Could we take up item number 14?
Item 14 from the Interim Director, Department of Office of Strategy, Budget, and Performance, requesting authorization to apply for and accept 3 Act 12 Innovation Grant applications and enter into associated service transfer agreements in March of 2026.
If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. Nicole Todd. I am the Senior Policy Manager for the Office of Strategy, Budget, and Performance.
Okay.
And I am here to present on your final item.
You're very lucky to be the last item, besides e-comments, but you're very lucky. How did you get so lucky to be the...
Just my good luck.
Okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Can I share my...
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry. I think most, if not all of you, have already heard of the Innovation Grant Program that was created by Act 12, which passed in 2023. Since that time, they've revised those. They took over a year to promulgate the rules, and then they revised them in the most recent biennium budget. And so here we are today. The application was finally released in September. A really quick turnaround for a program of this size. The applications are due March 31st. As part of the requirements of this grant program, which covers the scope of it is, as you'll see, service transfers for public entities, local municipalities, and counties and recognized tribes to transfer services. That typically takes much longer than a 6-month period. So what we have here before you today are the projects that we're able to move forward within this pretty prescriptive and short timeline. Sorry. So again, this just brief background. I've already sort of stated this, but again, it's not really about innovation so much. It's about a transfer of service. So I think people get kind of caught up on innovation thinking it's a new idea, and it's not. It's an established program that's been in place for at least 3 years or service that is now being transferred partially or fully. The purpose here is to generate long-term cost savings for local governments by transferring these services. So the eligible service categories are here, both of our applications, and you'll see the amended file that was presented. The only difference is we removed the Willoway project, which you heard about just a few speakers ago. The reason we removed that project is because it wasn't yet approved, the underlying service agreement. That was information only, and next board cycle, I believe, or in May, they'll bring before this body the action, so we couldn't move it forward, unfortunately, in time. The other two proposals do both fall under the economic development category. So the way that this grant is structured, 25% of the total cost of providing the service in that sort of baseline year, which is the year directly preceding the year the agreements are signed into. So for both of these projects, that's 2025. 25% of the actual costs of these services in 2025 as a snapshot is what creates the amount of the grant. That grant will be awarded for 3 to 5 years, depending on the different elements, which is whenever the grant comes through. The first disbursement is January 30th of this year. How long the service transfer takes? Some might take 3, some might take 4, some might take 5 years. So you'll see those variabilities soon. And then the number of annual payments received, again, is based on those factors. And then to remain eligible each year, the total cost, the total post-consolidation cost cannot exceed 115% of that baseline year. So, of course, inflation and different reasons might create an upward movement, but it can't exceed 115. So we did extensive review of programs that were over at least 20 to 25 programs or services, and probably more, that were considered. And then we had sort of a tier of, sort of looking at readiness and feasibility and, did they fit these criteria? And that got smaller and smaller, and I'm happy to answer questions about that, but we did meet with all of the administrative departments and then elected offices, including the sheriff's office, about potential services. So the two that are coming forward, and I am joined today, I should have said it at the beginning, Lindsay Peterson from the budget office is here. She's the one who's been really sort of helping helping departments with their budgets and financial questions around the grant. And then Erica Goblet, who is from DAS, managing these two applications for DAS. So you heard earlier today about the Villa Terrace and then the Charles Alice, where DAS is combining these as one application. So essentially what we're asking you to approve today is that if we were to receive these grants, if you're allowing us to apply, and if we receive them, 85% of the grant award would go to Milwaukee County, 15% would be divided equally between those two culturals. And then for the second application, with the Marcus, it's the same apportionment, but the Marcus would, of course, take the full 15%. And here's the breakdown. It's also, of course, in the report, fiscal note and resolution. This is what we would retain is the $761,000. That's the total amount over the number of payments projected for both of the applications. But the sort of gross amount that would come to Milwaukee County and then again be dispersed through us to our partners would be a little bit closer to $900,000. And so that's our request today, is that we are able to move forward with these applications for March 31st. And if we receive the awards, that we would be able to move forward with the agreements that have been included in the board file and would then be upon your authorization, upon the full board authorization, would go to all of the signatures across the county. The agreements were reviewed by OCC and agreed upon verbally by our partners. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair. I have one question, and I would also like to move for approval. Thank you for keeping on top of this process, because I think it was sort of a long-awaited announcement for the rules to be published, so I'm glad everyone was sticking with it. And is this a competitive process? Okay, thank you.
There's been a motion for approval of this agenda item. Further questions or comments? Ms. Nyan.
Mr. Chairman, this item is before this committee for action, but it was not reflected on the revision of the agenda, but it has also been referred to finance, so this will be available for scheduling by the finance chairperson. However, it is for you, before you for a vote in front of this committee.
It sounds good. It's very nice to have this committee's vote precede even the finance committees because they haven't scheduled it, so I'm happy we took it up before they did. So, Nan, if you'd like to call for the vote, roll call.
On the motion by Supervisor O'Connor that item number 14 be recommended for adoption, Supervisor Taylor, District 17?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Martinez?
Aye.
O'Connor? Aye. Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes, the motion prevails.
All right, are there any e-comments?
Can I read it in, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
Item 15, e-comments submitted to the Committee on Parks and Culture via the County Legislative Information Center. Click.
There is, Mr. Chairman, there is a comment on item number 2 that will be attached to the file. And if others have come in since I was last told, which I was told updated information, but if something trickles in, it'll be added to the file.
Thank you very much. Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair. Would it be possible to disclose the general nature of that comment?
It was on the museum. No, go to the file.
It's on the file?
It's in the file. It'll be in the file.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yes.
Other comments or concerns from committee members? Well, since this is our very last session, last Parks meeting, I do not see an emergency meeting being called between now and April. It's been a pleasure serving with all of you. It's been a pleasure serving with Supervisor Ekblad, also Supervisor Cogs-Jones, and everybody else here, and that includes Supervisor Martinez. I'm calling them out because you're still here with us in a hybrid fashion, but it's been a real pleasure. Best wishes for the people who are running for re-election, who have a challenger. I like Supervisor Martin. I want her back. She also volunteered for the first official business of next year. When we come back, hopefully she'll be on the committee, because we don't know who's going to be on the committee, although I've been told I will be chair, provided certain things take place. The first order of business will be who's bringing in the breakfast foods. And Supervisor Martin has volunteered to start the next session off of 26 through 28 with the first person to bring in breakfast. So she needs to win. She needs to win. So we need her. So with that, congratulations to everybody. Thank you very much for your service, and wishing you the best day, and we'll see you before board meeting. Thank you.